Right, welcome back to Rambling Achieved episode 3. I'm Looney, and as always with me, unnecessary rambling.
What up, my homie?
Not too bad today, with all of the news finally settling on that Xbox debacle. Um, they've announced, obviously, I can't remember when it was. When was it that they said that they partnered with Limited Run? It was a decent time
Oh
ago.
man. Yeah, that was a couple years ago at this point, right?
Yeah, and it was really nice when they said it because it was like, oh, maybe they're taking it more seriously, and then very few titles dropped from them. You had like Doom and Castlevania and stuff, but very nowhere near the amount of output that PlayStation was getting. But thankfully, with this whole moving a few games to PlayStation, it seems to have kicked them up the backside, and we're getting a bunch of them now, which is really exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I would assume that, the sales of a Switch version of Grounded, the sales of a PlayStation 5 version of Pentiment and Hi-Fi Rush is I think Pentiment's on Switch as well, if I'm not mistaken, physically with limited run.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, I would assume that those sales are more than going to make up for the cost of shipping this thing physically. And thankfully, in that, Xbox got physical copies of them as well. So all of those Hi-Fi Rush, Pentiment, Grounded, Sea of Thieves, those games weren't available physically beforehand, if I'm not mistaken. And now they're all going to be available physically through limited runs. So I think that, you know, both of us, I shouldn't speak for you. Myself, I don't really love the idea of losing exclusive content. When you pay money to get into an ecosystem, for me, the only reason I jump into any ecosystem is for exclusive content. So that slowly kind of going away. I I
Yeah.
don't I don't love what the future could hold for that, but as of the here, the now, Xbox hasn't been the best with physical content, and to actually have physical games with the entire, I assume, entire game on the disc across the board for all three platforms, that's one positive note in a somewhat more negative story, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I would hope that that's the whole point of limited run is that they'd put everything on the disc.
Hmm.
Um, the only concern I have is it's nice that they're getting these physical releases and stuff, but obviously it's in the name. It's a limited run, limited print. So, and the thing that annoys me about it a little bit with how they handle their stuff is it's such small timelines that they give you to order these things. Like I believe it's like what a month to get
Yeah,
Pentiment
yeah,
on Xbox, and then that's it. That'll be it. Whatever's printed is printed. Because I was like, oh, because obviously I ordered the Persona stuff that they did last year. I never dipped into the stuff previous to that. Although I would have wanted to, and I was like, I wonder like where the prices have settled. And Jesus Christ, they're launching for like 34.99, and they're being
yeah,
sold on eBay for like minimum 80 upwards. And it's just
yeah,
like you miss out on these things, and it's gonna cost you an arm and a leg to get these, and that's crazy to me.
yeah, yeah. Immediately grabbed a copy of Pentiment for the PS5 physically. Um, and I will do the same for Hi-Fi Rush. I probably won't do it for Grounded or Sea of Thieves, and that's the thing that's like, I don't know if you saw the Phil Spencer comments talking about, we're not going to commit to physical media if our player base isn't committed to it as well. And it's like, dude, your console has DRM built into it. It's like I
Mm,
want to buy Hi-Fi Rush for the Xbox physically. I want to buy Pentiment physically for the Xbox, but like you don't really give me much of a reason to do so. So I don't know. It kind of bums me out to go and buy it for the PS5 because it's like the same thing I don't agree with or that I don't want to happen of this, the barriers being broken and exclusive content sort of eroding. I'm almost in a way supporting that by buying the game on the platform I really don't want it to be on, but for the sake of preservation for my collection, if I want to go back to Hi-Fi Rush in 20 years, I feel safer having it on
New.
the PS5. So it's like, or you know, the Switch whenever it comes to Switch 2, I imagine. And that's a interesting thing that because as far as I'm aware, we haven't talked about this yet. Is that Hi-Fi Rush not coming to the Switch? I assume it's because of it can't run with the 30 frames, or you know, it has to have 60 frames for the rhythm components of it for the timing. But I wonder if
Um,
it's going to come to Switch too.
yeah, that's what a lot of people were thinking, weren't they? What I saw
Hmm.
rumbling about is that it's weird that it seemed to have jumped it. It's either Sony swooped in, but the more likely thing is that they're probably saving that for a Switch 2,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
when have they roughly think that that's going to be dropping? Because apparently the PS5 Pro might be dropping within the next, year, supposedly.
Well, it's funny. I remember everybody was like, absolutely, the Switch is coming out in 2024, but it's looking like early 2025 now. It's looking like they're going to announce it sometime this summer, you know, E3 sort of, not E3, but Nintendo's E3 window.
Yeah.
Announce it for winter 2025, holiday 2025, whatever. Push it to January or so, February, I would assume. And yeah, I mean, of course, it's going to sell like absolute hotcakes, but Nintendo does have some inconsistencies in their track record within, you know, the console market space or whatever you want to call it, the hardware market space. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I think Hi-Fi Rush on the Switch makes more sense than Hi-Fi Rush on the PS5, though. So I think it would do better on the Switch. So
Yeah,
I would like,
absolutely.
yeah, I'd like to see it over there at some point.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to see any of it anywhere, to be totally honest, but it's like since we're already here, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, like you said of in the previous video of it's not really painting them as the bad guys if, everybody's getting the chance to play it, I guess. Um, it's definitely a weird shift
Yeah,
considering how the industry has been rock solid in exclusives are exclusive. But yeah,
yeah,
as the past few years, it's blurred more and more with things coming to PC and stuff like that. So it's just
totally.
the future, I suppose.
Yeah.
And as an
I
extra little curveball, which I wrote down was if you could have any physical from Limited Run that hasn't had a physical before, what would you have anyone that you'd want?
That's awesome. That's a great question. Do you have one on the top of your head? Let me think on it for a second.
I mean, being an Xbox fan, we don't get as many physicals. That's why it felt like a good question. Um,
Yeah.
there's a ton of stuff like the the recent like Rogue Trader from Owlcat Games. Like I would love to have that as in a physical. I'm kind of shocked that they didn't go physical,
Yeah,
considering Kingmaker and Wrath of the Righteous also sold like crap, but they at least gave them physicals as well. I don't know if it's a different publisher maybe, and that's why they had to do that. So that would
I
probably be my vote.
yeah. I'm looking through my achievements right now because I always forget what the hell I've played. El Paso Elsewhere I think would be a sick one if it came with like you know, have a really expensive collector's edition with a vinyl soundtrack. That soundtrack is so just so solid. Um,
That's a game that's passed me by. I haven't had a chance to play it.
do
How
you
was
like
it?
do you like Max Payne?
Yeah, absolutely.
You'd love it. It's straight up Max Payne. Oh, Planet of Lana. That's one I would definitely love. And I think the art style for that would like go so well if you have a little art book and stuff. The art in that game is absolutely immaculate. But yeah, you would High on Life. That would be another one for sure. I
They've
don't know
already got
how
it.
high.
They've already
Did
got it.
it?
It's on. Yeah, that's one of the batch that got put on limited run. You can. It's coming soon. It says.
Oh, you can pre-order it?
Yeah, I believe it's got a
Oh.
collector's edition live. I
Oh, let
don't
me
know
go
if it's selling an individual copy. I didn't see that, but I think I caught
uh
it very early. so they might be doing individual copies now. But yeah, High on Life is on limited run.
I'm gonna go check that out. Damn, you were totally right. It's there, ain't it? Um, wow. Yep, it's got straight up. You're 100% right, dude. Damn, it has like individual copies as well, so you can go on there. Oh, it's you can't pre-order it yet. This item has not gone on sale. Oh, cool. It will be available on Tuesday, February 27th. So
Hmm,
perfect timing, dude. Perfect timing.
there you go. Your wish immediately come true.
I did you end up playing that?
I still haven't. I think that I'll probably end up picking that copy up, to be honest, and
Yeah.
then using that as an excuse to be like, all right, let's do this. Because
And
it looked enjoyable. Like I've enjoyed Rick and Morty, the TV show, which he also created and stuff. It's just unfortunate the whole stuff that went down with him that seemed to
oh
sour
yeah.
his reputation, and then it all turned out to be BS, and
Oh,
it
was
kind
it
of
all
ruined. Yeah, it all seemed to be like fabricated, a lot of it, and it's
damn.
just like you
Yeah.
fuck this guy's career like that. Jesus
Yeah.
Christ.
I remember hearing that that stuff popped up and I never ended up, following up and seeing what happened with it. But it's the for the physical copy here, they got a Series X edition that's not like there's no Xbox One carryover or anything, so it should be complete on disc for the Series X as well as the PS5. So that's great for Series X collectors, Xbox collectors.
Hmm. Yeah, awesome. Is that how much is that the standard?
It
Is that a
is
34.99? Because I've never really bought anything from them.
49.99. That's a pretty big boy.
Damn. I know Pentiment was 34.99.
Yeah.
I had that in my head as like, oh, they all do that. They're all standard that price. Clearly not.
I hate trying to like compare games value, you know what I mean, based off price, but when you think about Pentiment at 34.99, High on Life at 49.99, I think it kind of makes some sense, you know.
Mm.
I'm not saying it's, that much better. I'm not trying to do that, but I'm saying like in terms of the money that was spent to make High on Life versus the money
Oh
that
yeah,
was
absolutely. Had a
yeah.
much higher budget.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that was everything I wanted to cover on the limited run side. Unless you had anything else you wanted to add.
Yeah, I mean we've talked about this at length a good bit, so I really don't have much else on it. Do you think that this is, I mean, we've already went over this. We both kind of think that this is the beginning of a lot more to come down the road. You still kind of stand on that
In what sense? Then
in terms of Xbox with going quote unquote third party.
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
probably.
yeah,
I was trying to rationalize it as like with how he was like, oh, we'll see it, how these pan out, but you know that they're gonna sell better than they did on Xbox, and it's just sheer numbers game. Like even if they're not even popular, they will shift more copies on Xbox just because of the difference in player base
of
numbers.
course. Yeah.
So
Yeah, and it's weird that they're all, I saw Benji Sales tweet about it, how they're all packed into this first couple month window of 2024. It kind of does make you think like, are you leaving fall and winter and everything open for more releases? Like, I don't know. That could all just be coincidence, but it does seem like a shotgun approach, like an immediate shotgun approach to get out a bunch of games right next to one another, launching pretty quickly. It's like, damn, do you have more plans for 2024 in the back end of the year, the back half of the year? So it's going to be interesting to see how their business strategy evolves. I think they just want to they want to put it out there, wait and see how PlayStation is going to respond, what Sony's going to do on the business end, and if they're going to try to harm them and then this, that, and the other, use that money to leverage it this, that, and the other
well,
way.
now is the perfect time as well because I don't know for Nintendo because I don't keep up with them, but like PlayStation doesn't have any like first party stuff coming out in the foreseeable future. For the time being, they've got them third party things, but Xbox is probably thinking, look, if we have any time to do it, now is the time to do this. We won't be competing with their first parties, and this can kind of fill that gap.
Yeah, but if you look at it, like You would think that would be the back half of the year because the third parties have already kind of filled that gap for the front half of 2024. If you look at Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Pentiment launching right next to that, and then Hi-Fi Rush launching right next to Rise of the Ronin, and Pacific Drive launched just the other day. Dude, speaking of that, this is a total tangent, but I went to pick up Pentiment, Pacific Drive at GameStop, and I walk in and they're like, "Oh yeah, it doesn't come out physically until April 9th." Like, that's which is it's on me for not doing better research, but I hate this delayed, staggered. Listen, I will say I'm just happy that physical copies are still being made for games, but it's like the game came out February 22nd. And at one point it said February 22nd on
Yeah,
the website for the physical
yeah.
copy. And then it's just like they almost instantaneously delay it and there's no real war. And it's not I'm not blaming GameStop. I'm more blaming is it Kepler publishing that? I forget who's publishing it, but whoever's publishing it and distributing it
I mean that
physically.
they're all doing it. The Inquisitor that just launched. I don't know if you saw that game, like a lower budget kind of.
It's getting a physical?
Yeah,
Oh, dude,
it's a delayed physical, and it's the same thing like with what you were saying because it said on Amazon that it was launching on the day, and then it's been pushed back.
dude, you're shedding light on a bunch of shit here for me that I had no, because I've been wanting to play that game, but I was like, man, I don't
You
want to
don't want to
spend
drop
that.
$40 on it for
Yeah,
something
not
so low
digitally,
budget.
right? But I'd be down to drop $40 on it for it physically, so you can get it off of Amazon, huh?
I mean, the listing was live and then they pulled it, but I think it pushed back, I believe. The
Okay.
last that I saw.
Nice. I'll definitely grab a copy of that at some point for sure. Because that game looks so weird playing. I mean, it's so sacrilegious, but I'm not overly religious. It's playing an alternate history version of Jesus where he just
Mm.
rains down this parade of terror and murder on people, the
Uh,
non-believers. That is
it did look
so.
really cool.
Yeah, and I think you get to make decisions in it and stuff. Like you said, it is
Yep.
definitely, I mean low, 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 low budget. But um
It spoke to me from my inner piranha bytes is
yes,
what it was. I was like, yeah, boy, I'll have more of this. Absolutely.
dude, I'm with you. Like old school kind of third person, um 360 era action adventure titles. Dude, absolutely. Yeah, I'm gonna grab a copy of this. They got it on PlayAsia right now for 46.99. Um Yeah, I don't know about 46.99. I might grab a copy of it, but that's one of those games where that's not going to go down in price.
No, because it won't sell well. It's just going to
Yeah.
be one of them things where even if it's decent, which I'm not going to lie, I've heard no news about it at all since it's dropped. I've heard no reception, so I assume that it wasn't like the worst thing ever, but it wasn't special and didn't break through. So,
Yeah.
like a Piranha Bytes game.
I wish they had the shipping date when they expect it to ship.
Hmm.
But yeah,
I've
you
never
know
ordered
what?
from PlayAsia, so
I'll probably grab a copy of that later. But yeah, man, speaking of limited run, and all things LRG kind of ties right into the next thing you wanted to talk about with Limited Run now being owned by Embracer. And boy, oh boy, this shitstorm just continues to roll downhill. Deus Ex recently canceled. They announced 29 games under the Embracer umbrella have been canceled. More studios are going to be closed. And what was the quote that they used? What's the CEO? I forget his name. It's something with a W. He said something like the main drive or the main motivator is to like appease the investors. He said that in a business call, which of course you're going to say that in a business call, but it's just
because
like, golly, those are gross words.
they're absolutely gross words, but with how they've built the foundation of their company, they've built the rod for their own back. Like it's absolutely insane how, but like I'm not even into business, and I can see that you guys have just completely fucked everything. Like it doesn't take a genius to see that what your plans were incredibly paper thin. And I mean, where do I even begin with it? Because we've been wanting to talk about this for weeks, and as I think I messaged you, and I was like, dude, I've wrote so many notes. Like it's a never-ending rabbit hole, like of crap that you just keep digging and digging and you just find more and more. And it's so I guess I'll just throw a dart at some of this, and we can just get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
Um, so what was interesting is they said that as of September, because you said how many games got cancelled? 29?
Yeah. 29.
So that means technically, if that is 100% accurate and this quote was 100% accurate, they still have 100 games in development.
Oh, well, they own.
Because as of September 2023, they had 129 games in active development, and we've had what from them since then? We had the Tomb Raider remaster. I
Yeah,
can't
they've done.
really think of.
Aspire's been. Yeah,
They're
Aspire's been
carrying the
carrying.
whole damn company. Like this is
Yeah.
a team that are giving us games from like the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, and they're holding this shit together. They're the true MVP.
Yeah, those two companies, Aspire and Saber Interactive, the two
Mm,
port studios, remaster studios, they've been doing a lot of work. And Saber actually has done a lot of work outside of just ports. They did that wild card football game last year that was really good. Um, but yeah, man, I mean, goodness gracious, they just own so many studios. And I shouldn't say that those two teams have been the only teams carrying them. They also have that what is it, the dirt rally. I'm not a big into the whatever.
oh, WRC?
Yeah, I think yeah. WRC. They own that team, I believe.
Okay.
They one of those teams who
Oh no
does
no
those
no
style
no
of
no no no
games.
no! It can't be WRC because that's owned by EA now.
Is it Dirt?
Dirt is owned by EA as well. They own fucking everything.
They own one of those off-road style franchises.
Um. Ah, yes. No, it's on the tip of my tongue. I know what you're talking about now.
Like MX versus RX or something. Let's see.
I think it is MX
I'm just gonna
because
type
they
in
had an
MX.
open world game which really didn't land.
Yeah, here it is. MX versus ATV. That's the, I believe this is the Embracer owned that make these style of ATV games. And that was last year, I think this came out. So I mean, they've had stuff. It's just
It's not doing well at all though. That's what I mean. Like
yeah,
even as a racing fan, like that did not sell. I didn't hear any like rumblings about it at all.
yeah,
So
yeah. And then they have stuff on the horizon that I'm actually excited about. Alone in the Dark coming up soon. What is that? Wreck Nation, or I believe Wreck Nation is 2024. Outcast, I really want to play that Outcast game, the remake or reboot of one of the first open world games of all time, but they're charging $70 for that bad boy. And that's just like,
yeah, but
ew. I don't know if that's gonna really move the needle. The upcoming Tomb Raider game. I worry about that, man. What happens? Because I know Amazon's fronting the bill for that for the new Tomb Raider game in development. But like, what happens if Embracer totally implodes? What happens to Crystal Dynamics? Do they just? But and also, what happens to Perfect Dark if that happens? If Embracer totally implodes? I guess
I
Microsoft just
would
kind of.
I would think that these are massive companies funding these things. They would just be like, we'll keep you under the wing until the project's done, because that's what's happened in the past with stuff like that, where it's just like we'll keep the lights on until it's done, and then we have no obligation to give you any more help
Yeah.
following that. But that is a good point. They've got all of these different titles going, but they just seem to be so far out. Like the Perfect Dark game, we've seen nothing on that game at all. Tomb Raider, I've heard that it's what in Unreal, I think, and that's it. That's all I know
Yeah,
about
yeah.
it. They're not really giving much hope to be like, look, these are just on the horizon, guys. Give us a chance. It's these feel like titles that are like at least 2 years out, 3 years out, maybe even longer with how modern game development goes, which is just crazy.
And they own too many talented studios to be in this position because, like, sure, Crystal Dynamics, Eidos, they'll recover. Microsoft will buy them, Sony will buy them, someone will buy them, or acquire the talent that is left after the implosion of Embracer. A really, really big publisher will acquire that talent, no doubt. But the IP, who knows what happens with that? Do they do a fire sale for the IP? But I mean, even like what happens to Flying Wild Hog, the makers of Evil West and Shadow Warrior? They're not the type of team. I mean, I'm sure they could find some lane, but like there are those smaller teams. The what is it? The Little Nightmares guys,
Mm.
Tarsier or whatever. They what happens to guys like that? The somewhat smaller players who do need that funding from Embracer. And maybe those aren't, but like Tripwire Interactive, that's a really good example actually. Because I think Tarsier and Flying Wild Hog, they could probably find their footing somewhere. But like Tripwire Interactive, you know what I mean? The guys who made Maneater. Like that's definitely a more niche
Yeah.
style game that actually does cost a little bit of money. That's not like straight up Indian. That I feel like that's kind of the worst spot to be in, where you are making games with some real budget and you do need a publisher for that. But these aren't like mainstream, widely appealing games that can sell millions and millions of copies and guarantee a return on your investment. You know what I mean? They're definitely a more niche developer. And I don't know.
My only fault for how they would survive is that it's going to sound kind of cynical. I guess they're the lucky they've ever been in the gaming industry because they have stuff like Game Pass where they can come in and be like, okay, we'll fund your project. Like what's happening with the Stalker game, for instance. Microsoft's solely, footing the bill for that to get it onto their streaming platform. So that could be a way for them to be able to survive and stuff. I'm shocked not many people use the kickstarting thing anymore. That seems to have like died off. That used to be a really big thing for people. Like Pillars entirely was based off of Kickstarter. Both titles were used were using Kickstarter to get that project off the ground.
Yeah.
So
Well, you look at games like the I'm gonna draw a damn blank. What's the space game that's been in Star Citizen? Not, is it, no, that's the Star Citizen is the is that it?
yeah, Star
That's
well
the
the thing that's been in development for years and years and years, and it just has an unlimited budget because people just keep giving it money.
and that's the Kickstarter one, right?
Yeah,
Okay, because the one I get them confused. There's one that's being made by Blizzard, and then there's the one that's being funded off of Kickstarter, and I get the names confused. But they're or supposedly one being made by Blizzard. Who knows with that? But yeah, it's the that game that's just been so much money has been poured into it by these players, and there's still not a 1.0 version of it. And this
but
is, I mean, almost
they
over a decade.
they have it come out to hundreds of millions of dollars and thing, and they're still and they turn around and be like, okay, guys, here buy a ship in game for $10,000, a $20,000 VIP pass, and the craziest thing about it is they're selling. It's not people looking at them like, are you like out of your mind?
Jesus,
It's just
man.
working, and it's because they buy into the vision of it. They kind of remind me. I don't know I don't know how closely you followed it, but they kind of remind me of like Peter Molyneux
Oh my
with
God. Yeah.
how
Fable.
he could just his charisma carried the success of Fable because he had such a vision. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure he would have liked to implement the things that he talked about. It just wasn't possible. But
Yeah.
instead of like reining himself in, he just let himself get caught up in the moment and heavily disappoint people. And it
Yeah.
feels like that's the same with Star Citizen, but the difference is that they're just feeding them money on a monthly basis. So it's a flame that's never going
Golly.
to go out.
Yeah, it's so fascinating that like you would think at some point the money would dry up. But I don't know, maybe people are happy with the whatever you want to call it, the kind of trial and seeing everything get built. Maybe I don't know. To me it sounds crazy
I
to
think it's
wait.
because we want finished products. That's the difference. Is
Yeah.
when we give money, we kind of look, but you see, because a lot of people are happy with it, from what I've seen. Because I've kept, I wouldn't say like a close eye on it, but it's interesting to see something like this existing still and hasn't had any backfire and stuff. But they're literally, it's not even had, like you said, a 1.0 release, and they're overhauling the engine itself that it's built on because it's been going for so long that they need to revamp the entire like infrastructure of the inside of the game to keep it
That
available on modern hardware and to keep it progressing forward. And it's just like, I don't think it will ever release. I think the thing that will release is it has this little single player side thing that they've got with like Mark Hamill and stuff. But this
Oh
is just going to
really?
be, yeah, Star Citizen something. Oh, I can't remember what it is. But that's been in development for years and years and years. But
Yeah,
it just feels
it's
like it's going to be something that's just going to be continuously going on till the end of time.
I can't fathom supporting something like that. But once again, I haven't followed it at all. So I don't want to throw out statements on things that I actually have absolutely no knowledge on. So I don't know. But I from what I do know, I'm just like absolutely not.
Do
Absolutely not.
you know what a
Um
$20,000 ship? Come on.
Jesus Christ, man. But yeah, it's the thing where with Embracer and the blind faith in getting some humongous check from the Saudi Royal Fund or Saudi Wealth Fund, banking your entire existence on that, and then for some really, really talented developers, publishers even, THQ Nordic and I mean even, the Destroy All Humans, like that's the thing. The Destroy All Humans team. Black Forest Games, if I'm not mistaken. I think is the name of
I wouldn't be able to put a name on them,
I,
unfortunately.
I believe so, and the only reason I remember that is because that's the same team that's developing the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
which, maybe not the best idea from the first place, but I'm not once again can't judge it until we actually see it. But because I wanted this to be like some huge AAA God of War style game, and it's like, okay, I would look at Flying Wild Hog before.
I was literally about to say, because I think that's as close as they're ever going to get to that
I
caliber.
think, yeah, I think that's as close as there's ever been so
Mm.
far. I've been playing Banishers Ghost of New Eden, which is really trying to be God of War, but it's like, no disrespect to that game. I like it, but Evil West is on a whole different level.
Mm.
Um, but the thing is that, and they said recently that Black Forest game studio they laid off 50% of their staff. So it's like, what's going to happen to that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game? It's all imploding, it's all crumbling, and we're just sitting here hoping to God that whenever the rubble is laid out in front of us, that Microsoft, Sony, you also then it becomes a big issue where it's like, does Tencent, a company like that, go in and gobble up a ton of these teams because they could? You know what I mean? Uh, does Apple make a big play into the space, gobbling up a few teams, creating their games division because they've been wanting to? Does Amazon, because
Mm.
they've been wanting to get into the game space as a big publisher in a much bigger way, and they flirted with it in and out of this commitment, and it just you hope that these teams go to good homes because you see shit like Google popping up. And what was it? What was the game that was going to be Baldur's Gate 3 was going to be a Stadia exclusive title, if I'm not mistaken. And it's like you have these
Yeah.
powerful companies who can go in and like, okay, the next Deus Ex game, Apple goes in and then it's going to be exclusive to the new iPhone that they roll out that they think can run console games, and just a totally abysmal situation
Hmm.
where you waste away this talent for 8 years trying to develop a super complex game to run day one on a phone. Like, you know what I'm saying? There are these doom and gloom scenarios that could pop up from this crumbling, and it's a bummer to watch it all happen.
Yeah, it's the thing that's worrying is that there may not even be people that pick these studios up because
Yes.
Embracer wasn't the first person that they had in mind to be picking. They approached Sony, they approached Microsoft Crystal Dynamics to be bought by them, and they didn't want anything to do with them. So, and that's at dirt cheap. Like, what was it, 300 million
300.
for
Yeah.
all of that catalog, and they still didn't want to touch it? Like, how badly are they in the red, and or how badly are their projections that they see that and are like, we don't want to take a punt at that? Because
Yeah.
that's what I wrote down with you said about the Saudi game fund. Dude, Saudi Arabia are buying up everything at the moment, and they aren't afraid of taking hits. Like they've
Oh
been putting
no.
their hand into sports, and they will take like the 5 year big heavy red, and they will just be like, it's fine because in the next 10 years after that, we will be a competitive force. And they have. They've shown it time and time again. They've been in the football space. They've been buying up Premier League clubs, and they're some of the most competitive clubs in the world now, the most successful. I think they're finally getting their foot into the NBA. I saw they're sponsoring. It's called the Emirates NBA Cup or something, and that's exactly
Oh.
what they did with football. Is that they began sponsoring and then they will start purchasing the teams. And I'm sorry to break this to you, but in 10 years' time, you're probably going to see a bunch of Saudi-owned NBA teams,
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised by that at all.
and it's all part of their plan because their whole plan is to pluck that talent and bring it to Saudi Arabia as well, because that's what they've done with the footballing. I don't know who's like a really good NBA player who's, towards the end of their career, for instance. Do you know?
LeBron James.
They would happily be like, here's an $800 million contract.
Yeah.
Come play in Saudi Arabia in front of eight
Yeah.
people. And yeah, because they've done the same with, the likes of football players like Cristiano Ronaldo plays in Saudi Arabia now. Neymar plays in Saudi Arabia. These people are on ridiculous wages. You're talking like $2 million a week, untaxed. Like
That's
they don't
so
tax them,
crazy.
and it's just like they're crazy. They are crazy, and this is what I mean: is that what was it, a 2 billion or something funding is what they
Well,
were hinging their bets on Embracer from the Saudi
oh,
group.
I don't remember the exact number. I'm not
I think
sure.
I wrote it down. I think it was two, but yeah, $2 billion. That's nothing to them.
Oh yeah.
That is nothing to the state. Like, so if they looked at what state Embracer was in and they were like, no, absolutely not, they're in even deeper waters than probably people initially think. If they're not even willing to take a punt at it.
Yeah. Yeah. The weird thing to me, like, w why in the hell would Microsoft not jump on it? A 300 million, because I mean, they're going to be taking losses forever with a lot of their investments. Why not add 300
My
million to it?
only my only thought is that they knew that they were going to be going in for Activision, and because it would take them a certain
Oh,
amount of time to get that Square the Square Enix IPs and developers over the line, it would have stepped on the toes of Activision. Of the two, you're gonna want to get Activision Blizzard.
course. Of
Like
course.
that's the guaranteed cash cow. So they were probably like, man, we would love to do this, but we can't. We just bought Bethesda, we just bought all these other places, and we have somebody who's a hell of a lot more, enticing than you guys, I'm afraid.
Yeah,
And
and
Sony, I don't know, that's not really it was a low asking price of 300 million, but the production, I don't think they want to add another powerhouse production thing onto they're already grasping at straws for live service IPs to try and keep up.
yeah, because you're talking, I mean, that new Tomb Raider game is probably every Tomb Raider game of the modern ones
Yeah.
are well over $100 million, I would assume. Like those
Yeah.
are big, big budget games, and they definitely seem to be trying to get out of that market in a pretty quick manner. Um, so, but it's that $300 million asking price. I feel like just to have the back catalog of games, it's almost worth it. Just to have, the Tomb Raider IP, and then to be able to, you have movies, you have Hollywood, because Sony's been definitely trying to get into that lane.
Yeah.
Tomb Raider, I mean, the Angelina Jolie movies made good money, like I don't know. I just feel like that IP catalog, Deus Ex, Tomb Raider, he could definitely make a cool ass Deus Ex TV show. Like the Legacy of Kain, you could definitely
Yeah.
make a cool ass
You could
Legacy of Kain.
partner up with Netflix, you get an anime out of that, even just a live action thing, like a Deus Ex thing in the vein of like a Blade Runner movie would do really well.
Yeah. So it's just that seems like a weird miss in my opinion. But Sony, the only really weird, and it's now showing to be a very dumb purchase, was Bungie. Sony usually is really, really strategic about their purchases, specifically in the game space. I don't
Yeah.
know as much about the film but they are really strategic, and when they buy a studio, it's usually for a damn good reason. So maybe they did have some sort of insight that we don't. But it just from the outside looking in, it's like, damn man, that seemed to be a big blunder, a big miss to not get that talented, those two talented ass studios away from Embracer.
Yeah. Like I said, I think it's just the production. They didn't want that on the payroll.
I
It
get that.
is the only thing because otherwise, yeah, you would think that you'd want to scoop them IPs up, but then you don't want to be the bad guy in the news of, oh, we've scooped up all these studios and IPs, and then they would have to be the ones to do the mass layoffs and everything and get all that bad PR because Microsoft's already getting the hand burned in that department. Because apparently they did their mass layoffs at Activision, Blizzard, and everything. Apparently, it's
Oh,
breached what they agreed. Whoever they agreed, can't remember the name of the company who was overlooking the merger. Apparently, it breached what they had wrote down that they weren't going to do that.
oh,
So it's just like, ugh, guys, you could have waited like at least a year or something. Like
yeah,
Christ Almighty.
yeah. I don't know the inner workings of these companies, so I'm not gonna overly speculate. But and I know layoffs have to happen. Of course, they have to happen. And anybody who's suggesting that, like, you know, th- here's the reality. These are evil corporations. Like, it's not. I don't know how we've gotten so lost in the PR that we've forgotten that, like, all the when they hire the person to run the Xbox Twitter account and the Microsoft Twitter account and the Sony Twitter account and the PlayStation Twitter, though that's not the people actually making the
Mm,
decisions. Like, these people at the top of the executive suite, those are cutthroat, ruthless motherfuckers.
yep.
And they are going to sacrifice human life for profit. Like, I don't
And
to I,
they're incredibly out of touch as well because you're seeing it time and time again. The most recent example, Warner Brothers come out and said, the Suicide Squad game, it's underperforming. It hasn't met expectations. What the hell were your expectations? What were you
right.
thinking was going to happen? You're coming off the end of Marvel's Avengers, which was a complete dumpster fire. Guardians of the Galaxy renewed interest in the superhero IP and showed that you need to do it single player. And then you're like, ah, Gotham Knights. That's what we need. And then they're like, ah, that didn't land. Suicide Squad, that's what we need. It's just like, what is going
Well,
on in that head of yours? Like, seriously.
and it's like, dude, you have the studio, you have the team that brought superhero games to mainstream popularity. You have the team that did it with Rocksteady. You have the team that created the greatest superhero trilogy of video games of all time. And like to force that studio into making something that they're totally not capable of making, for one, a shooter. What? Like if it was a live service melee based, flow based counter system, if they could try to like transpose that into a live service game, their combat loop into a live service game, okay, let's see how that can work. You know what I mean? At least there's some idea, some foundation that you're building off of. But you uprooted this team and forced them to create an entirely new combat system just to compete with the likes of Fortnite and Destiny. And like, I understand from an executive level, like you said, of having no awareness of the space and just looking at numbers, just being a bean counter. But like, the days of creating a Fortnite, the days of creating a Destiny, a Halo 3 era, Halo 2 era, like those days are probably long gone. And Helldivers 2 is an example of what can be successful, I think. Peak, I think concurrent is around 450,000 on Steam,
And
which
they're
is
buzzing about that. Like, to many other games, that's low numbers when you see like the records that have been broken, but
exactly
that's they're really happy with them numbers. And it's the same with like Power World that recently dropped on Xbox and stuff. They were throwing shade that it dropped, like it lost a bunch of its players like a few weeks after. That's just the trend of it. You need to accept that.
that. What you just said is everything. That is the point because those games cannot lose players. The loss of players is the death knell for those games.
Hmm.
And you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars being poured into keeping this game running for the upfront development cost and to keep content pouring into the game month after month, year after year. That is where the cost really starts to hit. And to not have that, to not understand that beginning development for these games, like the Naughty Dog canceling factions and being like, yeah, well, we we didn't realize it was just going to take up so much time and
Mm,
so much money, and we were going to have to continually maintain this, and we weren't going to be able to develop single player games. It's
e-
like, how did you not
exactly.
see that?
Yeah, no, exactly. Because Fortnite is the thing that everybody wants to shoot and hope for. You realize that that team will make nothing other creatively in their entire career while this is going on. And on top of that, you're dropping stuff on a near daily basis on their stores to keep that engagement there, to keep these people completely gripped and under your control. Because if they went 2 weeks without adding anything, interest would just dwindle and they would just move on to, it's just you need to keep shiny objects in front of these people. This type of fan base just needs that dopamine hit constantly, constantly, constantly. So the
Well, and it's
moment
like,
you let up, that is it. They just go and, oh, what's this other game then?
right, and it's exactly what you're saying. It's like you can't keep up with Fortnite's output,
No.
and therefore you can't take the players from Fortnite because they're still playing Fortnite.
Yeah.
They're still playing Call of Duty because they're getting constant updates, constant new skins, new whatever. You know what I mean? There's constant content coming in. And how the fuck are you going to compete with that? But I will say, you look at Helldivers, I think that is a totally valid way to do multiplayer of saying, okay, we created I would have if this thing costed over $100 million, that would be devastating. I can't imagine that game costed over $100 million. If it did, that would be wild. But let's just say $100 million was the budget. We have a 49.99 price tag, I think.
Yeah, it's on the lower side.
Yeah, so it's like a great price point where it actually might be $39.99. But regardless, a great price point to get into the door, $30 cheaper than Suicide Squad. You right? But I mean, really though, and
Yeah.
$30 cheaper, probably $200 million cheaper to develop for at least. And you have 400,000 people who bought into it. So that right there covered, I could be mistaken. I'll pull out the calculator, but I think that would cover the entire development cost, right? If,
Yeah.
if 400,000 people spent 49.99 on a game, I think that would cover the entire development cost. So it's like a clear success, but it was a success that was not developed to. I don't think Helldivers 2 was ever looked at as like this game that was going to set the world on fire and continually maintaining updates and content and sustaining that for years and years. I think it was a double A live service game that panned out really well and probably wasn't all that expensive to develop for.
And that's the only way, as you said, as to how they'll be successful. And
Exactly.
it's so crazy because that's almost a mindset of going in and saying that you're not going to do well. Your expectations have to be so low because you're spreading through word of mouth more than anything, and people uploading stuff for you on YouTube and showing that they're having a killer time with this. And then everyone else is like, oh, I guess it wasn't so bad. It doesn't look so bad. I'll dip in, I'll dip in. And it's just snowballed from there.
Totally.
Because I
Yeah.
can't see, like, I wasn't hyped for it. I don't know if you were hyped. I had like little to no interest. It's become a little bit more interesting with how popular it's got and how much fun people are having with it. But I bundled that in the same boat as Skull and Bones. I thought that was just going to be dead on arrival.
Yeah. No, no, 100%. Yeah, I mean, the I was in the same boat. I was like, there's no way that this thing is going to land in the way that I thought that the other game. I thought they had more faith in the other game, Foam Stars, because it seemed like they were putting that on the PlayStation Plus. It seemed like that was going to be the game that they were
I don't
really
know.
pushing.
To me, that screamed that they had no faith in it because that screamed of a repeat of what was the PlayStation 5 launch title thing
Yep,
that they
Destruction All Stars.
that where they were
Yeah.
just like, yeah, you want $70 for it, and then people's reception of watching the trailer, they were like, this looks like arse, and they're like, yeah, it does, doesn't it? How about how about PlayStation Plus?
Yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. By the way, gotta clear up. I think I was way wrong on my on my calculations here. 450,000 people bought the game for $40. That would result in 18 million. So we'd still need to cover quite a bit of ground. But let's say you had another, if the same thing carried over to PlayStation players who bought the game, um, maybe you have, I'm horrible at math, but if you even if you had $40 million that has already, if the game has already made $40 million, I think that's like, okay, not horrible. You know what I mean? Not horrible.
Hmm. No, it like I said, it's been a surprising hit towards the beginning of the year, and probably all their live service titles that they have lined up. I don't think that they're probably going to hit a more successful title than that.
Marathon.
You think?
Yeah, Bungie. I mean, unless Bungie's just totally imploding, which it seems like they could be, but in terms of stickiness,
I
which
don't think that IP has much pull anymore, to be
I don't think it
honest.
I don't think the IP really matters. I think the studio, you
Hmm.
know, I think Bungie just knows how to create sticky gameplay, like stuff that keeps people wanting to play it just because the foundation, the core gameplay experience is so good with their games.
Yeah.
I think Concord, I think will be a dud. I think Marathon could achieve similar success to Helldivers, maybe even to Destiny. Fair Games is going to totally bomb. It's going to totally bomb. Uh, clip this out if I'm wrong and shame me. But yeah, Fair Games I think is going to totally bomb. What else do they have on the horizon? I worry that Ghost of Tsushima 2 is going to have live service components. I really worry about that.
Well, they flirted with it in the first game, didn't they, with that multiplayer update?
Yep, that's what
And
makes
it
me worry about
it
it.
didn't completely bomb either. Like the update was fairly popular. It had a decent amount of players and stuff like that, and people seem to engage with it.
Yep, that's what worries me. And then you look at like Naraka Blade Point, which took off in 2021,
Yeah.
and you can see a very similar style of game that Ghost of Tsushima could try to employ, or that Sucker Punch could try to employ with Ghost of Tsushima 2 or whatever they call it, Ghost of whatever.
So, well, we'll go back to Embracer, I guess, after uh, diverting as we always do.
Oh yeah.
You have mentioned before about the shutting down of studios and layoffs and stuff. And the thing that's crazy is that one of the studios that they've got up for sale is Gearbox.
Right.
And the thing that made that crazy to me is the fact, you have a movie on the horizon. Don't get me wrong, like I've got somebody who I talk to who's like a pretty big fan of Borderlands, and they're not pleased with the casting and what looks to be the movie. But you see so much of this now of where these movies aren't there to appeal to the actual fan base. It's to get new fans in. Look at
Yep.
what The Last of Us did and stuff like that. That's it. The casting pissed off a lot of people in that, yet it did incredibly well. But I'm
Yeah.
wondering why would you be wanting to sell that like straight when you're making the movie? Usually this is when you're going full guns blazing.
Well, you could look at it from the perspective of you have that tantalizing Hollywood appeal
Mm.
on the horizon, but we haven't saw the box office yet. So right now it's just expectation. It's just kind of like, hey, we expect this Borderlands movie to do X numbers. But when in reality, it
I
comes out,
I think it's probably going to do well, if I'm
oh,
being honest. Big, I don't fit like not for me. I'm personally probably not going to enjoy it. But you have like Jack Black and Kevin Hart in the cast.
good star power,
Like,
but good star power from like 2010, you know?
I mean, they still do well. Them Jumanji movies were all right. They still
Did it?
sold decently well.
Okay. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm
It's
wrong.
just missing The Rock, and then there you go. There's the trio.
Yeah, it is what it is. I'm not a Borderlands guy, so when I look at that, and when I look at that cast, and I'm just like, there's nothing really appealing about this at all to me. Like I have no
No,
interest
the
at all.
the top comment that had me creasing up was the person was like, "Wow, they aged Lilith, who's like the redhead girl. They've aged her like 30 years, and they've made Roland like 3 feet shorter because he
Mhm.
used to be a really tall black guy, and they've gone and cast Kevin Hart, who's like five
Oh
foot three."
God, that is funny, man. That's
And
so
it's just
funny.
like, wow, talk about like not knowing anything about like,
Well, now if they're self-aware about it, that could actually be kind of funny.
yeah,
You know what I mean? If they have, which I'm a little bit tired of the Deadpool style humor, but like if they have some of that style of humor in there and use it appropriately and like are aware of the fact that they made this dude 3 feet shorter, aware that the fact that they made this chick 30 years older,
yeah,
that could be kind of funny.
that would play into their hand of what their usual comedy is, which is that style,
Yeah.
which we both don't particularly care for, I believe.
Yeah, I'm not as like I know people hate the MCU style of humor and like I get it. It has become so ubiquitous. It's become like so prominent that yeah, it is getting a little stale. But I don't know. Do you know anything about Saturday Night Live?
So it doesn't really get shown over here, but I've seen like tons of like clips of it over the years.
Well, it's interesting because last night they had a real comedian host the show, which is not common at all for Saturday Night Live. It's become much more Hollywood
It's where
and
the
much
actors are, they get them jobs while they're in between jobs, is what it feels like.
that, and also like the hosts that they have. It's a lot more celebrity oriented, and it's a lot more. The humor is very it's kind of more in line with like MCU humor. It's so milk toast. It's so like everybody can kind of get a. You're never gonna laugh at Saturday Night Live, or the last like 10 years. You're never gonna actually get like a real laugh, but you'll consistently just do a little like that's kind of the comedy that they've went for the past 10 years or so. And it's like it's fine. That appeals to a wide range of people. And I understand the need to appeal to a wide range of people. But last night they had a real comedian host SNL for the first time in a long ass time. I think Nate Bargatze also hosted, who's a real comedian. But like Shane Gillis, I don't know if you've heard anything
Oh,
about him.
dude, he's been like blowing up in my on my YouTube shorts. Guy's
He's one of
hilarious.
Yeah, he's one of the funniest humans on the planet. And he is like it feels like that style of comedy. Like you said, it's been blowing up on YouTube Shorts. It's been blowing up on YouTube. His podcast has been blowing up. His specials, Gillian
Yeah.
Keeves, he's had this huge blow up, and it feels like that is sort of resonating with a mainstream audience, which is shocking as hell to me because that is like I- that's funny to me, and that's funny to that's like laugh out loud funny. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like that's the oh my God, I can't believe he's saying that style shit.
Yeah.
And that just never was, or not never, but for the past 10 years, that was like, no can do. We can't do that style of humor. And it sort of seems like it's making its way back. And it seems like Hollywood, that's the weird thing is that Saturday Night Live is embracing this, which I know New York, but like Saturday, the Hollywood as kind of a ecosystem, the bubble,
Mm.
they're sort of embracing it. So it's like, I wonder, does this does this Borderlands movie, whatever the hell they're calling it, what lane are they in? Are they MCU or because Borderlands is a little raunchy, right?
Yeah, it can be a tiny bit.
So it's like I wonder, could they lean into this new bubbling style of humor? Because Kevin Hart, I mean, I don't think people know now because Kevin Hart's become so big as an actor, but Kevin Hart used to have some funny ass specials that were like
Yeah.
very, very edgy.
Yeah. But he seems to have toned it down and landed these more, you know, easier to get roles that pay the bills, to put it
Yeah,
simply. Like he's become incredibly rich off of doing what he's doing. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the tone will land on the movie. And
totally.
um, this isn't to do with Embracer, but like the Fallout TV show as well. Like what that's gonna land in, because that seems to still be like I don't know what to think of that.
Well, yeah, and there's comedic undertones all throughout Fallout. There's some zany, crazy shit that goes on in those universes. Like, of course, the dystopic, post-apocalyptic scenario that you're facing is that's like the main kind of theme throughout the entire show. But there's definitely humorous undertones that are out there. So yeah, eh, there's definitely a change happening. I feel a change happening in the way that humor is being received by like a mainstream audience, which is it's going to be interesting to follow that through and see where some of these different shows land with that style of humor.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think of
And
the two, I'd want to see Fallout more though.
oh, of course, yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. But also Embracer owns Lord of the Rings, which not much humor there.
Why'd you have to?
But it's like what happens there? You know what I mean?
I don't even know where to open that can of worms because the Amazon TV show that they did had no respect for the source material at all, and because I've said it time and time again, it's an okay TV show as long as you don't go in wanting Lord of the Rings. It's as simple as that.
Yeah,
And I don't think they had a hand in that Embracer. That was Amazon and the Tolkien estate. But look, well, it would have been under their umbrella, that Gollum game, right? That was woeful.
for sure, under their umbrella.
Like,
The what is it? The I forget, Return to Moria or whatever. Return
oh my
to
God, that looks awful as well. That
that. Yeah, that's under their umbrella.
Jesus Christ. It's just, yeah, they just seem to be completely mismanaged and have no idea as to what they have on their hands, what they could actually make interesting. That they seem to just be picking the most boring, like Gollum as a character. Like, I just can't. Like every time I think of that, like who sat in that meeting and was like, "We need to have this bald guy in a cave eating fish. That's who we need to focus that story on." It's riveting, absolutely riveting.
It Embracer's a weird. They're in a weird space because they really like the AA market, uh, like Piranha Bytes and which is the unfortunate
Yeah,
scenario
and that's
there.
me. I have no
Yeah,
interest in that. Should have hit me up with an email. I'd have told them right there and then that would not have gone down well.
yeah, but it's like they like that space. They like exploring that AA space where games that they can, crank out for a reasonable budget. But it's like, okay, I get it. You don't want to develop all these different systems, combat systems, sword play and all this shit for your Lord of the Rings game. But I don't know, man. It's like you said, it just feels so mismanaged across the board and from every angle. You know what I mean? It's not that's the thing that's so crazy is it's like there's not one facet of that Embracer ecosystem that doesn't feel mismanaged. The AEW game, the wrestling game that came out last year, or the year before, whatever, abysmal. You know what I mean? So it's just like everything is so rough.
Oh,
I
is the
really
dust settled
worry.
on that now? Because you seemed fairly okay with it.
AEW?
Has yeah,
Oh, I no, I hate
or
it.
were you
I
always?
absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah, oh, I like the WWE game, the
oh, that was okay.
2K23. Yeah, I thought that was pretty good, but the AEW game was awful, and like the 2K games, the WWE 2K games aren't good enough to not have a competitor out there. So I was really hoping that something could light a fire under 2K's ass and have like real competition, but that AEW Fight Forever
Um,
game is not it.
yeah, I saw very, very negative reviews on it. It was just like,
It's
ugh.
it's
And this
bad.
is like you said, their competitor. They were a laughing stock. Like, what was it, 2 or 3 releases ago? The game didn't even work. You do like a choke
Oh,
slam into somebody, and they go straight through the ring and
yeah.
stuff like that, and just oh god,
Yeah, all the clipping, all the
yeah.
hair issues, all the physics issues. It was so buggy. It was so bad. It was so bad. And they need a competitor. They still need a competitor. And it's not gonna come from any realm of THQ, I don't think, unfortunately.
No, with them closing studios left, right, and center, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Because that'll link into, like you said, with uh them shutting down the Deus Ex game. They shut down Square Enix Montreal, who were the Go developers. They're completely gone. They've shut down Free Radical Design,
Wait,
people who
they
made,
shut down
yeah, that's
Montreal?
yeah.
Oh,
They
Jesus, I
they
didn't
they
even
no
know
longer
that.
exist. Free Radical no longer exist. So that's the time splitter guys. And then
Yeah.
obviously the one that hits me the most is Piranha Bytes. They're gone. 26 years in the business, and
Hmm.
that's it. With the click of a fingers, they're gone.
That's so good. Volition, the Saints Row team, gone.
Volition,
Like,
yeah, they've been dissolved. They're now a Borderlands developer. Volition. They've been absorbed into making the Borderlands game, and
yeah,
it's
I
just
saw.
like Christ, man. Like
Yeah. I saw that that team they reestablished. They got a new studio. I forget the name of it, but they have a new studio, and I think they're working with a pretty big publisher to create something new. So that's kind of that's the hope with all this, right? Is that Piranha Bytes they keep their core talent. And I was listening to Jonathan Blow, the creator of Braid, and he and the Witness, and he was on Sacred Symbols or Sacred Symbols Plus, um, and Colin Moriarty was interviewing him, and he was talking a lot about like this overly bloated staff that a lot of these big AAA companies have. And he said his quote was really fascinating. He said that you'll have like a team of, you know, 25, 50 people, and then it'll balloon up to 100 people. And he says, okay, well, and I'm paraphrasing, he said something to the effect of you would think if you go from 50 to 100, your development cycle or your efficiency should double.
No.
But he said like at best it might increase by like you know one and a half or you know it'll never get to that it I'm butchering his quote, but he was saying like it'll never get to that what your hope when you hire those people and you have to pay those salaries, it's rarely going to justify it in terms of the development cycle shortening. It's rarely going to
Mm,
justify it in terms of the quality of the game. And it's like, I don't know, maybe that's a big issue as well. These just these companies have ballooned, you
yep.
know, with Ubisoft having 500 people working on the next Star Wars Outlaws games. It's like, is that really needed? Is it that much more efficient than having
Well,
200 people working on it?
Ubisoft are like the top culprit for this, and
Yeah.
I I still don't really understand how it got to the point that it did. But like the new Assassin's Creed games, the Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla. Did you notice anything strange about them games? It was the fact that they went with these branching off map things where it was leveled, not only because they wanted
Right.
an RPG thing, it's because you're giving an entire developer, right, that's your area of the map, go make it. That's why it's so jarring that the quests were so varied
Yeah.
of quality, because you would have some where they would really think and try and apply puzzles and stuff to the best of their ability with what they had going for them. And then other ones, it's just our fetch quest on do this, do that, very simple stuff. And it's because that's how they have to make these new Assassin's Creed games because they have a staff of over like 1,000 people on some of these games when they're in full swing. And you're talking about this isn't 1,000 people in one building. This is 1,000 people split up all across the world. So you have some people working in this country, you have some people working in that country, and that you're all trying to make this same thing, but it will never ever land as much as something of a 10-man team under one roof. They might be able to push it out quicker if they were trying to reach the same goals, but it will never have the heart and soul of that smaller team because you got to consult with hundreds of people to try and get a creative vision rather than 10 people all in a room that are like, look, this is what we got and this is what we're aiming for.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, of course you can't get out Assassin's Creed Odyssey with 20 people or yeah, but it's like I think that's the question that a lot of gamers have is like, why do we have to have Assassin's Creed Odyssey? You know, it's like, why, what's wrong with Mirage? And I understand Mirage isn't that you can't get that out with a 20-man team either, but you could probably get pretty close. You know what I mean? Like, it would take a lot longer. You couldn't do it in a year, but there are these smaller games that are 1-man, 2-man operations, 10-man operations, like you were saying, that are competitive on a double A, at least look and feel in a double A space. They can exist with those games and look on par, you know, and feel on par and be of a similar quality bar. And it's like Ken Levine. You know, when he with his new studio, Ghost Story Games, a big thing was he was just like, man, these teams are too damn big. You
Yep.
know what I mean? When he was working on BioShock, he was
Es-
like,
Especially with someone like he has such a strong creative vision. Imagine bringing that in and trying to convince over 100 people, 200, 300, that this is they will not buy into it. You
yeah,
need to keep your team short, especially because he's a very artistic person, very
yeah,
strong vision in what he wants his product to be.
yeah. It's it feels like we're in a really we're in a period in the game space where it seems that some big change. Because I mean, if you look at that, even the PlayStation, the Hiroki Totoki, when he was speaking recently about the margins being too small for PlayStation games, I think they're at about 6% right now in terms of, what they're recouping after the investment made for development, and then what they're getting back on the profit after release is around 6%. And it's like that. I mean, it's in the green, or it's not in the red, which is good, but 6%, I don't think that's what anyone is really shooting for. You know what I mean? So I don't know. $300 million games. I think we kind of need to look at the here and now, and I think in 10 years or so, we're gonna really we're gonna look at games like Horizon and games like God of War Ragnarok, and these huge cyberpunks, and we're gonna be like, damn, that was a pretty crazy era of like games just looking ridiculous, and being so dense with so much to do and so much content. I don't think we're gonna get games like that in 10, 15 years as frequently.
You think?
Yeah, it's just too expensive to make.
Um, I
And the
think
margins don't seem to be good enough.
I think the scale will still be there, but the soul won't, because they've already started to bring in place these tools where things are pre-built for you now. So if they will probably utilize that heavily moving forward because it's just so much cheaper. If you can just get an asset, have the whole world pre-built, and then you just make your story. And I think that's what I meant with like you'll probably see the scale still there, but the soul isn't, because everything is just going to look the same. You're all going to be using Unreal. You're all going to be using the same assets and stuff like that.
Yeah, that actually makes more sense. And even like you see with the I think the UE5, I forget the name of it, but they had a tech demo where they showed the motion capture and facial animations just with someone recording it on their phone, and
Yeah.
then that being like transported into Unreal Engine 5 and being able to almost instantaneously create a character that's modeling your face. And it's yeah, so you're probably right. Technology will just it'll
It will
get
fill
to a
that gap
level.
like heavily. Especially with Ubisoft, I think I'm 90% sure. I remember reading this about Ubisoft heavily looking into having their writing done by AI moving forward.
See,
They
now
really want to do
that's
that.
yeah, that's kind of more along the lines of what I'm talking about. I think and you're probably right. The scale will probably remain the same, but like, yeah, exactly what you said, the soul. You're going to see a lot more of you laid all of this out, similar assets, the just totally soulless writing, and yeah, but I do think technology will probably be up to speed to the point in 10, 15 years where you can crank out a God of War style game for a whole hell of a lot less money. Um, so interesting times, no doubt about it.
Yeah, and it's with the the price is rising and rising and rising. I think as well in that 10 years time, I don't think double A is going to exist.
Ooh, that's a whole nother
Like
talking
you're
point.
you're seeing like piranha bytes, like they're showing that they can't compete. If they sold the copies, they would still be here. Like they can't compete with these other big dogs. They've had to just fold. And you've started to see you have to change a little bit and have a little bit more polish and edge because you're seeing this with the people who made Greedfall. That's a team that had a similar start to Piranha Bytes with Jank, and they've slowly been getting better and better each release. So to stick with what your little niche audience is no longer good enough anymore. Like it's not sustainable, unfortunately. It really bites your hand.
Yeah. Yeah, just with production costs,
Mm.
development costs, all that going through the roof. And like you said, I do think at some point those prices will go down, just as technology becomes more advanced. But there there is something in the that space, like even I know Immortals of Avium and Callisto Protocol are in the AAA space, but like I guess more of a new IP issue I worry about as well. You know, where it seems that we as consumers are so hesitant to anything that doesn't play to our nostalgia and doesn't play to our youth. And that worries the shit out of me, where like you can remake 100 Mario games and they all sell, 10 million copies, but then something like Banishers Ghost of New Eden, I've heard nothing about it. I've heard nobody really talk about it. And that game has more soul in it than 90% of games that come out. You know what I mean? Like that game has a great story from front to back, gripping
Yeah,
story. And it's something that feels like it came from a passionate place. And it's like, and it probably costs a good bit of money to make that thing. And
yeah, it was definitely a step up from Vampire.
oh my
Like,
God. You've been playing it?
yeah, but with day one,
Oh, you want to,
I'm
we can go
about,
ahead and,
I'm not too far into it, I'm about 4 hours in. Lies of Lies of P has got me in a headlock at the moment.
you want to go ahead and transition into what we're playing? Is there
Yeah,
anything
sure.
else you want to hit on Embracer?
No, I think we've beat that horse
Yeah.
firmly to death. Hopefully they can let go of them IPs.
What are you thinking of Banisher so far?
Um, it's I think it's what I was hoping for as a step up from Vampire because I don't know if it's nostalgia's crazy and it wasn't even that long ago. It was like 2018, so to call it nostalgia is probably criminal. But like that game really was cool. That was a really special, and it's probably because it's also vampire related. It just automatically gets my thumbs up. But it was something special, and like you said, it had soul. People made who made Banishers and stuff. They've definitely cleaned up the combat. It's a lot better.
Oh my God,
It's
yes.
still not like the greatest thing ever, but at least it has substance there, which is nice. And
Yeah.
a little bit slow in the beginning. Um, so I think that's probably why I've like fallen off it to go play something else. But yeah, no, I'm impressed with it overall, and it's definitely worth. I'd even say the asking price.
Yeah, I agree, man. I totally agree. I finished it. I really, really, really like this game. I think that, like you said, the combat is so much better than Vampire. It's, I don't think the one thing I will say to Vampire's credit is I think it's more versatile in the dialogue. Vampire, it just had more options available for you in conversation. And
Mhm.
I always appreciate that. I understand Banisher having to be more structured around the idea of light spoilers, but the whole sacrifice system and the spare system and that being able to influence and dictate how the end game, how the final moment will shape out. Which I know you've played 4 hours. You already got to the point where you get what I'm talking about in terms of why that system is there.
Mhm.
Um, and I think they talked about it in the trailer and stuff. I don't think that's a spoiler, is it?
I mean, that's the whole premise of the game, isn't it? That was what they were
Okay.
talking about with the ghost of your wife.
Oh, okay, cool, cool. So, my bad. Early in the game, your wife dies, and there is this ritual that you can perform that could potentially bring her back to life. But in order to do that, you have to spare, no, you have to sacrifice as many people as possible.
Mhm.
And you'll come across some difficult situations, difficult encounters throughout the game where you feel like someone isn't, guilty or whatever. But if you're working towards that end goal of bringing your wife back, you're going to sacrifice them, kill them in order to bring her back. And it actually brings up a bunch of really interesting, uh, narrative threads throughout the game. And I think that the entirety of the story is really, really strong. I, when I finished it, I was like, this is that alone for the story was worth the money. But the combat, it's straight up God of War. So if you like God of War's combat, you'll dig, man. It's let me be clear. It's diet God of War.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? You're not gonna,
Diet
it's
War,
not,
God of War Zero.
yes, right. You're not gonna get the same impact. You're not gonna get the same polish. But if you like God of War, I don't, maybe sacrilegious. I like this story way more than God of War 2018 or Ragnarok. Way more. This is probably top 10 favorite stories of the generation so far. Really dig this story.
I mean, to heap further praise on it, I thought that the two characters were also just really good. Like before playing this, I finally dipped into Immortals of Avium. Just I couldn't click with the characters. I'm, I'm not I'm not big on the whole quippy. It didn't keep my interest. I don't know if I'll end up finishing it. And but the Banishers characters like really well written, really well voice acted as well. Really
Yes.
good range. I don't know who voices them, but as they don't seem, I don't hear it and be like, I can put a face to that name. But whoever the two are, they're incredible.
Have you noticed the like rain technology, whatever the hell they developed there, where like it'll be raining and the water will like drip down onto the clothing and you can actually see like the water rolling down the cloth of the cloth.
Yeah.
Like that's really impressive. And there's a couple times where like the characters are crying, whatever the hell their water physics. I don't know what the hell they did, but their water looks really
Yeah.
damn good throughout this game through
Yeah.
tears and rain and the waterfall. Like they have really impressive water and also just like little things, they there's a lot of little attention to detail put into the environments and stuff. And there will be times where you'll see a little bit of pop in, a little bit of frame rate issues, but overall, I didn't run into a single like there's light bugs, but I never ran into like a real bug throughout the entire. And
That was a
it's
fairly
a
polished product from what I
yeah,
played.
and it's chunky too, man. I probably put in like 22, 23 hours, and I would imagine there's still another 25 or so in terms of side content that I could go back and, different side quests and shit. It's there's a lot there's a lot of content in that game.
Mm. So to hit it into your court, what have you been playing? That game.
Um I played Banishers, finished that. I have been binging the hell out of BioShock Infinite, really digging that. I mean, just I absolutely love what I've been playing so far. I still probably have like 2 or 3 hours left to go before I finish the game, but I'm definitely more than halfway through it, and I think that the combat is. I want to finish it before I give like some definitive statement. I'll tell you right now, and I hope I don't live to regret this. I always worry about this before I finish a game because the ending could fall off a cliff. Right now, this is my favorite first person shooter ever.
Oh damn.
I
Really?
I yeah, I really enjoy Half-Life 2, really enjoy Fear, really enjoy Titanfall 2, really enjoy Wolfenstein, etc., etc. Like this is the most fun I've ever had consistently in combat with a first person shooter. And I'll even I hate being in the moment because I'm such a prisoner of the moment at times, and I'm literally playing this right now, so it's like so fresh on my mind. This might be one of this might be in terms of combat in games. This might be in my top 10 favorite gameplay loops ever. I can't believe how fun this is. Like you said, we talked earlier, the rail gliding, the skylines and just being able to you're taking on a ship off in the distance, and you're on these skylines, and you jump off the skylines onto the ship, taking out a couple dudes, hopping back onto the skyline, going around, slowing down, shooting a dude, sniping a dude. Like there's so much in terms of just the first person shooting aspect combined with the traversal methods, but along with Elizabeth, who's giving you different, she's giving you different buffs in combat where she is able to tear into these different portals, and she can place a cover for you to duck underneath, or she can place shotguns over here, turrets over there, and these she's such a aid in combat. It's one of the few times I've played a game with a companion that does nothing but help.
Yeah,
You know what I
no,
mean? Like,
yeah. That's what I was about to interject. Is like you have so many escort NPCs that are pivotal to the story that do either nothing or hinder you, and
yes.
she does nothing but help. She's an incredible help with the ability of how much influence she has on the environments. Like you said, being able to rip stuff in is it's really well done. So it
It's so
offers
well
no
done.
room for frustration.
Yeah, that's a crazy thing too. It's such a I will say I hit a point, um and I'm only playing on the normal difficulty, but I hit a point last night where it was starting to ramp up in difficulty. I I won't spoil who I was facing, but I'll just say that like the ghost, did you finish it? So the kind of ghostly character
Mm, hmm.
that spawns and is able to
Yeah,
resurrect people,
yeah.
that was pretty tough. And I'm at that stage now. So that was pretty tough. But that's been the only
Wait
real
until the next area.
oh, it's more difficult. Oh
Yeah, there
boy.
is a
Yeah,
section. Yeah.
I got the ability um where you can just sort of deflect bullets and like bounce them back at enemies. I
Mm.
forget what they call it, but that kind of I'll grab an RPG and I'll deflect bullets and just bounce fucking bounce these rockets off of enemies. And then anytime I'm running low on ammo, Elizabeth will throw me some more rockets over there. And it's just like so I kind of have created a bit of a loophole there, but hey, the game allows it, and
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm abusing it. And I'll just the different spells you can cast. You know what I mean? Like the new one here that I really like is the crows. I don't
Yeah.
remember that in the other BioShock games where you could just
No.
send out these crows to murder people, and then you can upgrade it, and the whenever what is it? The crows that kill somebody, they like lay traps around that body or something. There's so many cool, like it's a cool base for these abilities, and then as you upgrade them even more, it gets cooler and cooler. So yeah, it's been
Yeah,
really really fun.
the crows seem to be like almost inspired by like the rat summoning from the Dishonored franchise, is what it felt
Right.
similar to, which is really cool.
What
Um,
about you, man?
well, to link in with the vampire, I guess. Vampire the Masquerade Swansong. Did you dip your toe into that at any point?
I hated that game. Hated it. Do you enjoy it?
I ended up Physical told me about a website which you log the games into. Can't remember
Uh,
the name off by heart, but I actually wrote like a little mini review for it, and I think it started off along the lines of, look, man, if this was any other type of like IP, I would be shredding this right now. But Vampire the Masquerade fans don't get anything to eat. Like this is as
yeah,
good as we get. Like the Werewolf Apocalypse Earthblood game,
yeah,
pretty arse. But look, man, it's all we get, so we have to
yeah.
just make do. And do you know what's crazy is that I got about three-quarters of the way through the story, and then I couldn't leave a room. Had to start the whole story over again,
Oh, just I ran into that type of shit constantly, dude.
and then it happened again,
That's what I'm,
and then it
dude.
happened again, and it was like the fourth time, and I was like, "All right, man, this is it." Like, there's only so much patience I have, and I was able to get through it. And I think the little piece of advice I'll probably give to people is, I don't know if you do this, and this is maybe we were replicating the same issues. When you finish reading something, do you click for the next piece of text?
Always.
That was what was causing it. It was getting
Yeah.
hitched on that. So I didn't skip the dialogue at all because I'd seen somebody say to not do that, and I was like, okay, I'll give it one more shot, and I didn't skip any of the dialogue, and it worked fairly well. But man, if it wasn't so buggy, it's actually a fairly decent game. For a vampire, the Masquerade game. Like there was some good choices and some good outcomes, and I did enjoy the different twists in the story, and the three different characters were varied and interesting. So, but
Yeah.
I don't think I have it in me to 100% that.
I really wanted to like it, man, because I love Detroit Become Human and games of that ilk, and I kind of saw some similarities there, and it was just, man, it was just so rough around the edges. It was just so buggy, and because I bought it on day one. I bought a physical
Yeah,
copy of
so
it on
did
day
I.
one, and yeah, man, it was rough on day one. I'm sure now they've kind of cleaned it up a bit, but I don't know. I don't see myself
No,
ever going
they
back
have
to that
not.
one.
I can tell you they have not.
Oh, really?
Well, no, because I'd played it day one and got to that point, and obviously been hit by that progress bug, and I was like, okay, well, I'll just wait for a patch then. And I waited. I obviously forgot about the game and was like, oh, Vampire the Masquerade. I can kind of get into a game like that at the moment. And I put it in and I was like, oh, yeah, I forgot I made it like decently through. And I sat in that room for 35 minutes looking around and interacting and talking to these characters. I was like, what the fuck am I doing wrong? Like, what am I missing? Like, I know there's certain times where you can just completely just overlook something, but I was like, I've literally done everything. And I
Yeah.
look up a guide online. I'm like, what am I missing? And it's just like, oh no, if you talk to your daughter, then the character will spawn. I was like, I've been talking to her for the past like 20 minutes. Nothing's happened.
Jesus, man. Yeah. I didn't enjoy my experience with it at all. I really wanted to like it too, but it was not for me.
It's unfortunate.
Anything else you've been playing?
100% a game called Brotato, which is
Oh,
on
it came
Game
to Game
Pass.
Pass. Yeah.
Yeah. Something I'd actually done on the phone prior to that. I didn't think it would ever get a console port, but you know, here we are. It was interesting for that kind of thing, and it's so cheap as well. Followed in the footsteps of Vampire Survivors. You're talking like buying the whole game for like $4 day one, which is crazy.
Is that the style of game it is? Like
Yeah, yeah, on a much smaller scale. Because Vampire Survivors will have like a massive map and Easter eggs for you to find, whereas Brotato is just solely fixed on the combat in little arenas. Yeah, really, really fun. Um, After that, moved on to Robocop, and it really, I think you said you enjoyed it a lot. I
I loved
couldn't,
it.
I couldn't really get into it too. 100% it because the list was fairly easy, so it wasn't like any trouble. But man, it really, really didn't think it was a step up from the Terminator game.
I'll have to play that because I liked RoboCop a lot, and I definitely I'm gonna check out that Terminator game. I shouldn't say I did like RoboCop a lot. It had its issues, no doubt. Like that game definitely multiple times I had to restart levels and shit. It was not as polished as it should have been.
Oh, I'm not even
Um,
talking from a bug perspective either. I'm just talking
oh,
about for the game overall. Like the game ran flawlessly. I don't think I ran
oh,
into any
really?
bugs. It just, it because I think I said this to you as well. Of I went in with that Terminator game with no expectations, so it completely went above that and was like, man, this is like really, really good. So it was like going into the RoboCop game. It was like, come on, then, like you set that bar, that standard. Like, are you gonna surpass it again? And they just didn't. It felt like they heavily went underneath. The boss fights were woeful, so spongy. I don't know if you remember,
Yeah.
so damn spongy. And it was just like, am I just not doing something right here? Like this this is really tedious.
That final one sucked, dude.
Yeah,
And the where you go through the three different levels
yeah,
or two or three levels and you end up in the parking garage. It's
yeah.
like yeah, that shit was that was horrible. That
It's
was
like I see
horrible,
what you're trying
horrible.
to build like as a cinematic set piece, but like giving this guy what feels like 3 million hit points is not the way
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah, it was really, really tedious. But yeah, yeah, in terms of that's the thing. In terms of the set pieces, in terms of like the destructibility on offer, it was really
Mm,
cool. Like being able to fall through the floors, and so it's like, yeah, that I definitely ran in the I forget what boss it was. It was whenever like the riots are happening towards the end and you're on the streets and there was some boss or like mini boss
oh
that
yeah, the
took me
little
for
walker thing. Yeah,
yes, took me forever to get through that, dude.
yeah.
Kept dying over and over.
Yeah, and it was a recycled boss as well, because you'd literally just fought it in the previous mission in the like the oh, whatever it was called, the Arms Expo or whatever it was.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And they were
Yep.
like, "Oh, you like him? Here's part two." And it's just like, no, please, God, no.
Yeah. Yeah. What did you think about the story? I was really surprised that you had friggin' choices in a RoboCop game. I was like, that is so cool.
Yeah, no, the choices are good. That's the same thing that they did in the Terminator game. There were choices
Really?
and stuff, yeah,
Oh, I'm
light
getting that for
choices
sure.
and side quests and stuff like that. And that's what I mean. And it just, I don't know. I think it's the thing of me not having watched the movies. Have you watched the movies of RoboCop?
I no, I watched like I passively watched them as a kid, and I had family that would watch it, and I remember seeing RoboCop, but I don't remember anything about the story at
Mm.
all.
Because I think that was also because like I've seen like 90% of the Terminator movies, so it resonates a little bit more with me. But I was talking to a friend about it, and I was like, "Look, man, if this was a Judge Dredd game, I don't know if you're familiar with Judge, I'd be all for this. Like, it'd be so easier to get into the setting and stuff like that, and the brutality of it, because it really did have visceral and brutal combat."
Have you played the Judge Dredd game on the original Xbox?
No, I really want to.
It's so expensive, man, but I've multiple times thought about like what is it running at right now? Do I got eBay on here?
Is
Let's
that different?
see.
They had a Judge Death game as well, didn't they?
I'm not sure.
Which
Let's
is
see.
that's a spin-off series, which is really
Uh,
cool. Judge Dredd versus Judge Death, I believe.
Damn it, actually it's not that yeah, Dread versus Death. They have that one here for $48. Didn't they have like a just straight up Judge Dredd game like standalone
It
at
must
some
have.
point?
Yeah, no, I believe so.
It's a
Unless it is that
PS2?
game.
Yeah, it might have been that game. I really don't. I'm just gonna type in Judge Dredd
Because I thought you could
game.
arrest citizens on the street, right?
They have
As a
one for the
mechanic.
PlayStation 1. And then yeah, it's looking like the only other one is that Judge Dredd versus Judge Death or versus Death on Xbox PS2. So maybe that is the game I'm talking about. It's really not that expensive at all, $50. I mean, it's not cheap, but huh.
For retro, it's not breaching that 100 market.
Yeah, dude, I'm completely done with that shit. I won't no. Not buying a 30-year-old game for 80, $100. Not happening. But yeah, man. I I dove into that Balatro. What is it? The card game,
Oh
the
yeah, I
it's
saw that
this
on your list. I haven't touched it.
yeah, it's a kind of like a roguelike card game, poker game. I'm not the biggest poker guy in the world. I didn't really play poker. I mean, I've played, poker, but I that we played like spades and we played stuff like that more than poker. So I don't really have a ton of knowledge on poker, but I will say this is definitely an addictive gameplay loop where it's more like high score based poker where they lay out like 10 cards and you try to pick the best of the five or five of the best 10, and you take those cards into battle and you are trying to get to a certain score. So it's like, say, 300 points, 500 points, whatever. And they have like a list of, all of the best hands that you can get in poker. And you will get like different buffs and stuff, different abilities. And you can, okay, so this hand, my flush is three times more valuable than usual. So now I'm looking to get a flush, and I have this little, buffer, this little ability attached to it that will elevate the score. And you're trying to just, anytime you lose a hand or lose a round, you set back over at the very beginning and have to restart. So it's like, I don't know, it's something addictive, just kind of the high scoring nature that's not present in real poker. Like
Yeah.
there is something sort of addictive about just trying to go through it in that manner and having the little gamified abilities and stuff attached to it. I, like I said, I'm not a big poker guy, so I played it for about 2 hours and I was like, okay, cool. I see what people like about this. And
But you won't be
and
going back in.
probably, I mean, it's one of those games where I probably actually would jump back in. It's totally a turn your brain off, and well, how it's not turning. It is active and it's engaging, but it's turning your brain off. Like you don't really have to think about anything other than this one very particular thing, and there's something satisfying about that.
I mean, that's how a lot of roguelikes are. That's why I'm surprised because they don't really gel with you. A lot of them. You,
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I really like progress in games. I could care less about progress in a card game. Like you know what I mean? I have zero investment in, I don't give a damn if I ever finish Balatro. I don't care at all if I don't care if I lose every other hand. Like it has that same thing where if I'm playing a poker video game or a pool video game or even, in Red Dead,
yeah,
well,
just the
no,
complete
actually
switch off.
I will say in a game like Red Dead or in a game like Sleeping Dogs or whatever, I actually do have more investment because you do lose your money in the game. You know what I mean? You lose the currency that you've accumulated. So like in those games, I actually am more invested in it, and like I don't want to lose my damn money. But like in just a straight up poker game or just a straight up pool game, or I could care less. You know what I mean? Because I'm not really invested in those worlds at all. Um, and so yeah, just like as a switch your brain off and kind of I could see myself going back to it for sure. Just as 30 minutes here where, I want to go to sleep. My brain's not really letting me go to sleep, just doing something that totally kind of distracts me from whatever's going on in my brain, but also is calming enough to like lure me to sleep.
No, that makes absolutely total sense. I'll have to look into it. I'm very big into like card games and stuff. Not so much poker, but I wouldn't mind giving it a go.
Yeah, poker's like the easiest game in the world to learn. Poker's so simple. Um, And I mean, you have it, they lay out everything right there for all the different hands that you're trying to strive for.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's super, super easy in that regard, but they do have an interesting challenge twist to it where whenever you go up against the quote unquote bosses, they have their own like debuffs where okay, I'm playing this boss and now spades, I can't play any spades or I can't play any hearts or I can't play any diamonds. So if you get a hand where it's like you have five diamonds, it's like shit, that's a great hand, but I can't play it.
Mm.
And yeah.
No, that's an interesting like additional layer to it. That's what makes roguelikes really fun, is them little modifiers that they put in. So
Oh,
I'll probably
but
end up enjoying it.
to your question about why I can get into this and not other roguelikes, it's because anytime a roguelike presents a story, I want to see the story through. You know what I mean? If you give me a roguelike game like
So you'd need
just
to have something. So like for instance, Hades had like light story elements. You would have to see that through to the end. Whereas something, if it was completely combat related, like Dead Cells or something, you could just do runs and be happy with it.
yeah, but see, and that's the other interesting thing because Dead Cells would kind of fall into the Balatro camp where I would not care at all about getting through it. because there would be nothing compelling me to get through it other than just the combat and mastering the combat. And I really don't care to ever do that in games. Like the story is the reason I want to get through it. But in terms of if you put a roguelike in front of me where there's no story and it's just super fun combat, super fun gameplay, I'll just play it and like totally disconnect, but I won't have like any investment in it at all. It'll just be like
That's
fun for
interesting.
the sake, yeah, fun for the sake of fun kind of thing. And but when you present a story in a roguelike, that's where I kind of get annoyed, where I'm like, I really want to see what's going on here. And then I start getting pissed because I'm defaulting back to the beginning and losing progression. I don't like losing progression in story games because I want to see the story. You know what I mean? I want to see it through. But some roguelikes do a good job of like Hades have a good they bake story around the trial and
The
error, which
failures, yeah,
yeah, which was solid.
fair enough. The last thing would be what I'm playing at the moment, which is Lies of P. Finished it last year, probably like on a fun scale, I would say it probably would have been my game of the year of last year. I
Wow.
had to concede it to Baldur's Gate 3 because obviously it's Baldur's Gate 3. But
Can I
go
can I ask you a question about Baldur's Gate 3?
go ahead.
How far are you into Baldur's Gate 3? Like how many hours have you put into it?
Do you want to know the funniest thing? I'm like a massive CRPG fan, but I'm also very, it takes me so long to get into them because I see these opening branching paths in all these different classes, and I'll dump like I did it for Pathfinder, I did it for Pathfinder Kingmaker, Wrath of the Righteous. I've done it for Baldur's Gate 3. I'm about 8 hours into about five different classes.
Oh, okay.
And I'm
I see
like,
what you're
what do I
saying.
want to sink like the 200-hour mark into of a class? And I'm still getting
Yeah.
the feel for it, but oh God, it's so good.
I can't wait till that physical copy arrives, man. I'm so excited to check it out. So it's can I'm sorry, I totally cut you off your Liza P talk, but can I so I'm not a big turn-based guy.
Hmm.
Is can you just drop the difficulty and just kind of like breeze through it and play through the story? Is there like difficulty settings and stuff?
Yeah, there's always been difficulties. They've had difficulty settings in the Divinity games.
Oh, cool.
I won't say it's a cakewalk
Oh, really?
because like it will modify you to take less damage and you to do more damage, but at the end of the day, they have fairly complex systems in place, which means that you can't just usually cakewalk
Hmm.
because they have different layers of armor and stuff. So you need to, in as long as you're okay with interacting with the spells and learning like a base understanding of certain mechanics.
Yeah. Yeah, because I really want to, I just want to see all the branching paths. That's like the only thing that's appealing to me about Baldur's Gate 3 is like, when I heard that you had this, like this many freaking, branching paths that are all cinematic and you have all these different responses just baked into the game. I was like, I got to see that. I have to see that. So even though I'm not a turn-based guy, I will definitely be trying my damnedest with Baldur's Gate 3. I think that's crazy what they developed with the all the multiple decisions. But yeah, my bad. I cut you off.
So, no, it is incredible, like especially with how cinematic they've been able to get the game. Because I remember seeing like Wasteland 3 and with how they zoomed in close with the characters, and I was like, man, this is great. This is never going to be topped. This is the best
3
CRPGs they're ever going to get. And then
years
Larian's
later.
like, hold my beer. We got you, bro.
Yeah. I played a
And
little bit of Wasteland 3. I forgot to tell you about that.
didn't
It,
gel with it, I'm assuming.
well, no, I actually really did like it. I was just I kind of I wanted to I played it for maybe 4-ish hours or so, 5-ish hours. I just kind of wanted to get a little taste for what I might get with Baldur's Gate 3. I didn't want to go too into it and then like burn myself out for Baldur's Gate 3, but I was like, okay, I can definitely do this. I can definitely do this if it's around this level of complex, which I'm assuming Baldur's Gate 3 is probably much more. But
I would say it's much more. It's a little bit different because they the movement system is different with how it is because I think it's grid based almost, isn't it, in Wasteland, if I'm remembering correctly. Unless I'm thinking of Wasteland 2.
In battle, it's grid based, but
Yeah,
in
yeah, that's what I mean.
exploration,
In
uh,
battle, it's grid based. There's you have the little squares and everything. You hide
wait, so you
behind
can just
cover.
move your characters freely in Baldur's Gate 3 in
No, no, no,
combat?
no, 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 no.
Oh,
It's just not grid based. That's what I mean.
oh, it's just turn
It's
based.
just an AP. No, it's the same combat. It's just not set on a grid. So you don't have to end. It's
Oh,
strange to explain it. So you
I see what
just
you're saying. So like if you're like you want to go get cover, it's not necessarily okay, I got to go to this specific square to get cover. It's just like you're
if
pointing.
something's in between you and that person, you won't need to take cover. It will just automatically know that there's cover behind. It's kind of that kind of thing.
That's interesting. Okay, cool. Shit, yeah.
And instead of it being grids and stuff, it's all done through measurement system. So like your movement is done in meters and stuff like that. And that's what I mean. It's heavily tied with the rules of the game.
Okay, sweet.
So, but the only thing I will say that you might like less is that the reason Wasteland 3 appealed to so many people is because of the way they handled the combats. You did all your combat in one, and then the enemy did it, right? It wasn't a back and forth, if I'm remembering correctly. Your whole
Right.
team
Yeah, your
did their
team would
whole
go
shit.
and
Yeah,
yep.
whereas in like Baldur's Gate, it's all initiative based system. So you could have the first three turns getting smacked the shit out of, and you can't do anything
Mhm.
about it. So
Yeah. As long as I can just power through it and you know, because I can decently understand systems in games. Like that's really not the issue. The issue for me is understanding how to implement those into a turn-based combat loop. You know what I mean? Like it, and also with these fantasy games, there's a lot of lingo. You know what I mean? There's a lot of jargon that kind of takes me some time to catch up with because I'm not a big fantasy guy in general. Um, but I'm definitely at the very least with Baldur's Gate 3, I'm committed to 30 hours. I'll put in 30 hours, even if it's just me banging my head against a wall. I'm gonna try to get it, try to understand it, and then after 30 hours, if I can, it's like okay, I'll be okay with at least giving it that amount of time because
yeah,
that's the type of game that I really because Dragon Age Origins, I love Dragon Age Origins, and that's a turn-based system. Dragon Age 2 a little bit less turn-based, but I really enjoyed that. So there are turn-based games where it's just like I love the story so much that I'll, for lack of a better term, put up with the turn-based combat. And I yeah, that's what I'm hoping for with Baldur's Gate 3. Or I'm
yeah.
hoping for more, I'm hoping to get into
I
it.
think you'll click with it. I think it'll be the turn-based game that will shoot to the top of your list because you're a very big fan on branching paths, and there is so
Yes.
many. Even just
Yeah.
in the opening, like intro, like of that first like little hub town, there are so many things that you can do that when I went and did them on another character, I was like, oh, I'll just be a dick this time, and it's just like, wow, that's
And they really matter. Like the different
yeah,
decision, that's
yeah,
so crazy. It's so crazy that they have cutscenes accounting for all that stuff.
mm,
That is the thing that blows my mind more than anything. Like having a bunch of decisions is in and of itself incredibly difficult. But to have like full on cinematics representing the decisions that you're making and to have that many 800 different decisions, 800 different like that blows my mind that they accounted for that with cinematics for that many different scenarios. Crazy.
yeah. Because even Divinity, to a certain extent, had the branching paths. It didn't have the cinematic side to it, but they've been working this out for many years.
That damn thing should be arriving at some point, man. They said, what the hell did they say? I'm gonna, yeah, I cut you off like 18 hours ago. My bad, brother.
Well, one
Hit me
last
with,
thing to interject in. I don't know if it's because they've obviously said that they want to ship the latest patches and stuff. The latest news that came from Baldur's Gate is that it's going to be getting official mod support. So they might wait
nice.
until then. I don't know. But yeah, we'd have to see. But yeah, Lies of P to give it a little bit more respect. Um, Yeah, finished it last year. Really, really enjoyed it. Um, Trying to get the 100% for it, and it's that new game plus is so brutal, man. That
Oh, it's
it
even more difficult.
it's. I didn't even think the original like new game was all that bad. There was like a maybe two instances of like, this is challenging. But no, that new game plus, I said to a friend, I've had to put my teeth back in and I'm getting them kicked out constantly. So yeah, all I have to do now is two different endings. So what I've opted for is to just abandon that first character and just do them on a new game plus, new game run instead of a new game plus because the difficulty ramp up is just so insane.
Damn. So you have to do this in order to get the 100%?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just got two endings and that's another list 100%ed. I'm on a nice roll this year.
Mm. So you said that it would be your game of the year in 2023 in terms of just
Yeah,
fun factor.
yeah.
And I don't want to know, so don't tell me. And I guess we'll go ahead and tease this for anybody that's listening to our damn ramble 3 hours into this episode. But we're going to be doing our top 10 games of the generation on my channel. And that makes me really curious hearing your thoughts on Liza P. Can I ask you this? Once again, don't spoil it for me because I don't want to know your list. You don't want to know my list. What got to do it on the fly. Got to give the real. Got to give the real to the people here. But has this new game plus upped or downed? Has it
Um,
improved or diminished your ranking of it, or has it changed it at all?
no, it hasn't changed it at all because
Okay.
that was the first experience I had with the game, so that will always be what I think of and stuff. And at the end of the day, this is self-inflicted. I don't have to do these other endings. This is of my own choice. So, but I can say I will. It is on the list. So, to no one's
Yeah, I mean,
surprise.
yeah, if it here's the thing. If it was your game of the year in 2023, it's on the list. Like that yeah. I've been but I will say to we're spoiling shit here, but I was kind of surprised by the lack of 2023 games on my list. Of course, there's 2023 games on my list, but it was less than I would have suspected. I'll just say that.
I think I'm right there with you. Yeah.
2022 is actually really,
Yeah.
yeah, doing a lot of carrying on mine.
Yep.
Interesting. They're saying that Baldur's Gate 3 is this is probably horrible. I'm this is probably horrible podcasting. I'm just sitting here just randomly fucking interjecting all of your thoughts
Ah,
with
rambling
bullshit here.
achieved. That is it.
So they're saying Baldur's Gate physical Q1 of 2024. The first quarter ends in March, correct?
It feels like it's going to get pushed. I think they would have
Yeah.
announced it by now.
So, hold, when
But they have
does
done, in their defense, the recent patches that they've put out have been massive, like
oh,
overhauls of stuff. So you'd think that if they're going to want to put it on a disc and that's going to be the cemented baseline of what people think of, you want it to be the best that it can possibly be.
because I heard that Act 3 was actually pretty busted for Baldur's Gate
That's
3. I heard.
that's nothing new for a Larian game.
Yeah.
The Divinity 2 had one of the worst ending acts of any game, and it took them like 3 years to just chip away and be like, "All right, here you go, guys. Here's the vision
Yeah.
that we finally promised." It's like, "Good, thank you."
Because I remember a lot of people talking about it during Game of the Year where people were like, yeah, it's the best game of the year, but I don't know if people voting on this for Game of the Year got to Act 3.
No, the
I was
majority
like,
of them
yeah,
didn't. That's the thing. No,
that's
because
so
it's
funny.
so long of a game as well.
Yeah. So March 31st is the end of Q1. So by this time next month, maybe I'll be sitting with my BG3
I
copy.
mean, you
That'd
can
be
hope.
nice. Hey, they got to be better than limited run, man. Jesus.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, that's been all my games. Have you got any
That's been. I
others that
mean,
you've
I've
done?
uh, I finished Little Guardsman. Really enjoyed that. Um, I think that's about it for me, man. I can't really remember off the top of my head. Banishers is really what I've spent so much time in Banishers, 20 plus hours. I was so surprised it was over 20 hours. But yeah, that's been the majority of what I have been playing, brother.
Fair enough. But yeah, the looking for I think after this Lies of Beef, like 100%, I'm gonna finally just be like, look, I'm taking a break from the modern gen. I want to go back to the 360 and get a
Oh,
bunch of
really?
them kicked off. Yeah, because
What are you thinking?
I don't know, but in the back of my head, it's scratching at me like the store's closing down, and I know that it's not going to happen, but like
Yeah,
the minute percent chance that they just cut everything off the 360 and just be like, yeah, it's not
right.
profitable. I just want to get a few more achievements from some of them lists, at least logged on.
I I've I'm wondering about The Witcher 2 because I know they're remaking The Witcher 1. I'm wondering if you think they'll ever remake The Witcher 2? Because what I want to do is I want to wait for the remake of 1 to come out. I want to play through that and then I was thinking of going straight into The Witcher 2. But it's like, damn, I
Have
wonder
you
if they're going to
never
remake.
have you never played through two?
No, I only played through 3. It's too great.
So underrated. So many people slept on that game.
Yeah, I didn't know
Uh,
anything about CDPR really until The Witcher 3.
mm, I was a very big fan of it. I was so hyped for the Wild Hunt when it got announced. I remember going
So
to the local
is
supermarket and picking it up like fucking day two.
how, because I've heard it's rough in comparison to Wild Hunt. How rough would you say on a scale of 1 to 10?
I mean, yeah, very, very rough. If I'm sorry, like I would say probably Elix's 2 combat is probably more polished than it. It's
What?
really, really stiff.
Oh,
Really, really
interesting.
stiff. Um,
So
but as you
is
go
it
through the game, you get more abilities that kind of loosen it a little bit.
is it one of those games where is it like difficult and stiff, or is it just kind of stiff? Because that's the thing with me. If a combat system's bad and difficult, I'm
Um,
like, I'm done.
I mean, it has difficulty options, so you can always pump that down. But it fresh in my mind because I just before I think like last year I took a stab at like streaming and stuff, and I was playing that on the hardest difficulty, The Witcher 2 on my
Oh,
channel. Um, so fresh in my mind, I'm thinking, dude, the game is brutal as shit.
yeah,
Um, but it's it's not like insurmountable. It's not as hard as like a Dark Souls.
right.
You'd be able to pick things up, especially on a lower difficulty.
Yeah, I might just bump it down. I really, dude, I've gotten to the point where I'm playing a lot more stuff on easy. If I jump into something and I don't like the combat, I just drop it. Like if I'm liking a story or something, but I don't like the combat, I'm like, I'm good. I'll just bump this down to easy and
I'm a
get this.
slave to the achievements. It makes me
Right.
smile when there's no difficulty achievements because I'm like, a
Yeah.
vacation game, like the Robocop game. I was like, an easy list and no difficulty. Nice.
Yeah. It, man, dude, I'm rambling. I don't know why I'm rambling so much, dude. I apologize, but I what do you in terms of difficulty? Like I'm always normal. I go normal on absolutely everything. I never ever I can honestly tell you this, dude. This is gonna sound crazy coming from someone who plays as much games as I do. I don't think I've ever played a game on hard. Well, no. My bad, my bad. I play all my sports games on the max difficulty. Well, all my basketball games on the max difficulty. But that's just because I've been playing them since I was literally an
Yeah, that's
infant.
that's a different breed because when I was like big into FIFA, you'd play that shit on Ultimate. So I
Because you
understand.
have to, or
Yeah,
you'll
because
you'll blow
otherwise
out the
you'll just
computer.
you'll be like 26.
Yeah.
26 goals to nothing.
But dude, I legit, I
Um,
swear to God, I've never, I shouldn't swear to God. I am almost 100% positive I've never played a story game on hard.
I don't think I ever did them until I got like sucked into achievement hunting. Because the
Yeah.
first thing that pops to my mind, where I think of, man, that was the first time I went straight in at hard, and that was Quantum Break.
Oh, because the
I
achievements.
loved the game, and it had a difficulty related thing, and it was like beat the game on hard, and I was like, I'm really enjoying this combat. Like, up the difficulty, bring it on. Like, I'm using all these abilities anyway. Like, up the challenge. Let's have it. And
Very underrated combat system in that game.
yeah, well, it was the what do you call it? The foundation for control
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
It 100% is.
And both games were incredible.
Yeah.
But yeah, me
S-
being able to digest the Dark Souls kind of esque games kind of ripped the band-aid. Like hard difficulties, I know I can do them, but I won't choose to do them if there's no achievement related to them. I'll just say that because it's just like, I don't want the unnecessary annoyance.
Yeah. So you're just normal? Like if it's just your preference, like you're just going into a game just to play it to enjoy it, you're just normal, like
I
pretty much every game.
probably lean even further towards easy a lot of the time,
Okay.
just to have like a break from it. Like, because when you have stuff like the Callisto Protocol that think it's funny to fuck me over and be like, "You're playing it on hard and I didn't tell you," and I'm just like, "Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
That's why this is
Oh, I
so
bumped.
fucking brutal."
Yeah. It's ridiculous. I bumped that shit down to easy as well. That was one of those combat systems where, once again, I was liking the story, and I was just like, this combat system sucks.
Mm.
It just straight sucks. Um, oh, at time it's a good idea. A melee based
It was
horror game is a
interesting.
yeah, but the dodging and all, I was, oh my God, dude, how could you have possibly made this any clunkier? Um,
And imagine that on hard, where you get to the fucking train section. That I was
ooh, where
pulling
they're
my teeth
spawning.
out. Yeah, I was pulling my teeth.
You're talking about the one where they keep on coming up over the sides and
Yeah, and then you have the big boy at
oh
the
my
end.
God. Yes. Yeah, that I think that was I think that might have been where I dropped the difficulty. Was that a game where you could drop the difficulty midway through the game, right?
I have no idea. I
I
did it
don't
on
remember,
print.
but
I didn't drop it on principle. I was pissed off with it. Took it as an insult. I was like, I'm conquering you then.
oh, you beat it on hard?
Yeah, 100% the game.
Oh my God, that had to have been brutal.
It was.
Dude.
And then it was a
Yeah,
kick in the teeth because they had released about five different DLCs, and every single one of them was like, beat the game again, beat the game again, and you can't stack them. So I'd have to beat the game five more times to get that. With Xbox, you have to get the 100%, even if it's DLCs and stuff. So I've lost that 100%. Unlike a
oh,
PlayStation where you have like a platinum trophy where it's forever solidified. That's the only. I'd love to see that on Xbox. Like a, you got the full base list.
so I've heard people because I actually like the achievement system more than the trophy system because I like seeing the numbers go up immediately. I think that's so addictive, and I actually could see myself getting into achievement hunting for that. Now, the thing that bothers me about the PlayStation system is that the platinum trophy accounts for so much, and that like you have these numbers. Like I think I'm at 325. Like I'm in the silver. My score is like 325. Um, and I'll play through an entire game, like through an entire game, and I'll have like, 60% of the achievements, but I stay at a 325 or whatever. And it's
Mm.
like if you get these
It's
platinums,
because
it's
they inflated it weirdly. Because that's a reshuffled system because it was never that high of a number before for a lot of people. You'd have like level 60s and stuff. And like a level
yeah,
60 was like you played shitloads of games.
right.
So I like the number system, but I would love a platinum equivalent. That's all
How
I'd want.
So what would that be? It would just be like, okay, you get once you get all your achievements of the base game, like Callisto Protocol, you just get another achievement that kind of crowns it but doesn't add points to it? Or would it be like the final achievement after you've unlocked all the achievement gives you an extra boost to points?
I
Because
would
then that's how,
need I would need something when I'm scrolling through my list. I would need something that indicates that you've done it.
hmm.
So that even if it turns around and says that, you've got 1,000 out of 2,040, like for instance, is what they usually could do. I would need
But then
something on that list that says that you got the full base game. You just
so
haven't
like
done the DLC.
if you're scrolling down your achievements and you get to like, Callisto Protocol, whatever other game, you would have like a diamond next to each game
Yeah,
that you, that
yeah,
would be sick. That'd be
that would
really
be
sick.
awesome. Because they had a similar system. They even had something like that on the 360 era, where it bundled at the when you would look at your profile, you'd have all the games scrolling all the way down, but at the very beginning is every single 100% game that you did. It was at the
That'd be sick.
forefront of your profile,
That would be really
and
sick. And then
it's just disappeared.
and they couldn't take it away after DLC and stuff. That would be sick. If like it showed the games that you the base game, you 100% of that. That would be really fucking cool. That'd be sick. Yeah.
And
I
they
like that.
and they have said Phil said that he's looking to revamp the achievement system as well this year. We're bringing in new ideas, so I'm hoping that they listen.
I really like achievements, man. I really do. I love seeing the number go up immediately. And I don't know, it's so much more addictive to me because I don't think I've ever I I know I've never platinumed a game intentionally, ever. And I don't think I'll ever do 100% either for achievements. It's weird. I enjoy achievement hunting, but I like playing a game naturally, how I always play games, but seeing the instant gratification of that number immediately improving, because to me, that's more, it makes me want to stay on that platform longer because it's like this sort of dopamine
Mm.
hit that I've never understood that while playing video games because I've never played games ever for trophies or achievements or anything. So like this is kind of a new, which I don't really. It's more a thing where I look at it after I get finished playing a game. I'm like, oh, okay, I remember just a second ago it was at 33,000. Now it's at or 33,500. Now it's at 34,000. Like there is something kind of cool about that instantaneous nature of it.
Yeah, you seem to be more in the vein of you like the milestone, I think, hitting of them numbers as the overall
Yes.
score is what you value a lot more, which I can completely respect. Like I
Yeah.
always look forward to hitting that next milestone as well.
Dude, that is exactly it. I framed my point horribly. That is exactly it. It's like going from 30,000 because I started off the year at, I think 27,000 and now I'm at 34,000. And
Yeah.
like seeing that go up and because I want to hit 50,000 this year and like slowly getting to that number, that's really damn fun to me because once again with the trophy system, it takes a while for that number to boost up, but I can immediately see it with the gamer score. And it is really I shouldn't say addictive, but it's really enjoyable. It's really fun to me. I really enjoy that.
It's engaging and it's a nice side piece to have
Yes.
in addition to the game because the reason it doesn't click with you with the PlayStation thing is because it's heavily aimed at people who want to. The only thing that matters is the platinum, is what
Exactly.
it is at the forefront, is, you know, show off how many platinums you've got.
Totally. Yeah, because like I'm going through my achievements now with BioShock. I'm only see, I'm at 10% right now with BioShock. Little Guardsman, I finished that. I only got 34%. Spec Ops The Line finished that, only got 49%. Hellblade, it's a really easy one. I got 90% on that. Enslaved Odyssey to the West, I got 37% on that. So it's not like I'm not playing games to get it, but it's cool as an additional, like you said, a
But
little side piece.
it's just accumulating, yeah.
Yeah.
So they add up. I think the reason I don't, because I used to be, I'd probably be aligned with you in it. But knowing how the community is, the numbers have completely diminished in value over the years because you have all these companies that put out 1,000 lists. So a normal game of 1,000 gamer score, but you can complete it in like 3 minutes.
Oh,
So they've
that sucks.
completely watered down the number side of it. So
But
it's
can't
where
you
you,
like if you went to their profile, you could see that they were doing that
oh
bullshit,
yeah,
right?
yeah, because they would
Yeah.
have like 1.6 million gamer score and they'd play nothing but arse games.
Damn. Yeah, I did. Yeah. You can't hide that stuff either though. Like
No,
if you play those games like it should
nope.
see to me that would be the thing. I I would be which is so stupid because it's not like it matters. But I if I did that, I would be ashamed of doing that. You know what I mean?
A
Like
lot of them are. But it's
and they
just
still
they're
just
so addicted to it. They're just addicted to seeing that number rise. And they know that, the people that sell these games, because they do stacks, is what it's called. So they'll sell like a European version, an American version,
oh my
Japanese
God.
version. So these games that are 3 minutes, you can buy like six of them and you get 6,000 gamer score. That's why it kind of warmed my heart when he was like, "Look, dude, you got 400,000, you're killing it." And I was like, "Oh, if only you knew. If only you knew
And
that
so
some
you've
of
never
these
done that
people."
bullshit.
No, not intentionally.
Yeah.
Sometimes a game will I've fallen prey to really good like cover art. I'm really bad at that. If I see
Y-
something that has really cool cover art on the store and it's like cheap, I'm like, "Oh, that looks interesting." And I pick it up and I'm like, "Oh, it's one of these."
Yeah. No, yeah, I feel you. Yeah, so because yeah, to me, like when because like you said, you can't hide the achievements, and whenever I go through yours, I don't see any garbage on there, and like for to me, that is 400,000 is way more
Yeah,
valuable than a
that's
million.
yeah, that's well earned 400,000. These are
Right?
actual games. But that's what I
Yeah,
mean. We won't. A lot of people won't know that unless you look into the list, and that's why the number is has fell out of importance, and
well,
why they
just
want to change the system.
oh man, I hate that. That would bum me out if it kind of leaned more towards PlayStation, but you could still abuse it. Even on PlayStation, I assume you can abuse
Yeah,
the
they have crappy platinums. They have the same thing.
so like
They're the
what could
people. They started it. Them little bastards. They're the
what would
reason.
changing it do though?
Um.
If you still had those games, it could still be
Uh.
abused. So it
Yeah.
seems like getting rid of those games would be the top priority.
But they won't. They sell. We're a niche audience, but when you're stacking six different versions and they're like $5 a piece, and you can pump like 3 or 4 like games of that quality out a month, it all adds up.
Right.
They sell more than probably some AAA games in a year.
God. Yeah. Man, that's such a bummer because I'm actually kind of getting into it now. I don't want it to.
Nah, stay strong. Do them good games.
Yeah. Oh no,
Stick to
I'll never.
it.
Yeah. You don't got to worry about me doing any kind of bullshit.
No dark
Which,
arts.
which like. I played NBA Live '06 this year, and but it's like that's one of my favorite sports games of all time. But then when I went to the achievement list, it was pretty damn easy. And I didn't get the 1,000, but
That
it's pretty easy to get it.
um in their defense, like that was that oh what did you say? Seven? Six?
'06,
Oh
yeah.
six. A lot of sports games had that kind of achievement. Like FIFA had that kind of, and then once the online took off, they heavily swing from being really easy lists to over 1,000 hour grinds.
So when I started off the year, I don't know what I was really in a mood to just revisit nostalgia, play sports games and stuff like that. I played Prize Fighter, which is a Don King
The
boxing game.
boxing game.
Yeah, I got 50% on that, but I just played the story. I played SmackDown versus Raw 2007, and I only got 15%. Then I just played one GM mode. NBA 2K9, I got 54% in that. NBA Live '06, I got 94% in that. I need to, let's
It's,
see.
it might be an online achievement.
Yeah, there's one for an online achievement, and then there's
Yeah.
one for creating a character. I can go and pop that one pretty damn quick, but I didn't create a character. But yeah, Madden '08, NBA Street Home Court. I just like I really wanted to and stuff like NBA Street Home Court I'd never played before. Stuff like um where Prize Fighter I'd never played before. And so I was just kind of like curious to go back to stuff that I really enjoyed and also to play a couple new sports games and just to 2023 was so much. You know what I mean? There was so much. It was like every single week a new release that was coming out that I was interested in that was like, you know, time consuming or difficult or something like a story that you really want to like stay in tune with and then try to digest everything. There was something so cathartic about going back to old sports games and just like blank slate. And then that was right whenever I made the video doing my goals for 2024. I was like, I want to
Yeah.
get to 50,000 achievements. And then that was like a layered on component where it's like, this makes it so much because it's sports games. There's nothing really keeping you there to progress through it.
Mm.
You're just playing a sports game. But then it was like a new element where it's like, oh, now I have a checklist as well. And so yeah, that shit was that was really fun. I might do that like once a year. Go in and try to do some achievement hunting on sports games.
Yeah, no. There's a lot of people do like targeted lists and stuff. You have some people who, you know, solely target racing games and stuff like because they're when you get into like achievement lists, they can be fairly deep. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
you're
dude. It's
definitely on track to hitting that 50 this year. You probably won't even need to try, really.
yeah, I wanted to really pile up that first month. I think I got 6,000 or something that first month. And then that'll kind of let my foot off the gas for the next 11 months. And because what would that be? If I got 2,000 a month, well, 2,000 a month, 12 months, that'd be 24. So that'd put me there. So even if I got like 1,500,
Hmm.
I should be on track, I think. So
Yeah, but you're already out this month, I believe, last time I checked.
yeah, I think so. I believe so. What are we at
Because I think I'm
here?
almost at five.
Yeah, I'm at 2,000. Just I'm at 2,000 flat as of today. So, well, we're probably I'm never gonna catch you. That's not even in the damn plans. I have no intentions on ever even trying to get up to that level. But I don't know. I feel like when I looked at 20,000, I was like, damn, I'd like to at least get up to 50, 75, something like that.
One last question before we obviously wind it down is are you going to do anything special for that 50,000 out of curiosity? Would you look to maybe get 100% to that 50,000? So from 49,000 to 50,000, or is it just hitting that milestone?
Yeah, I think it's just the number. I think there's really I played Bully in 2022, 2023, 2023, early 2023. And I loved the game so much that I went into the trophy list and I was like just scouting out different trophies and like I just wanted to play the game more
Hmm.
and have like little checklists. And so I started doing it. And the more I was doing it, the more I started to dislike Bully. And I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore because there's just stupid shit in a lot of those trophy lists and achievement lists where it's like, that is not how I would normally play a game at all. And it, here's the thing, if it's not how I would normally play a game, but it makes the game more enjoyable or makes me engage with an aspect of the game that's fun that I wouldn't have engaged with previously, dope. But for me, if I'm playing a game and what I'm doing in the achievement list or trophy list just to get those achievements or trophies is actively making me dislike a game more, I'm you know, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to like hurt my overall experience with the game. I want to appreciate the game for the
Like me with
experience that I
Lies of P.
right. But there you I think you have a different like
It's
you're
why
obvious
it's why I jump is what my defense to that is why I jump between so many games. It doesn't get under my skin and irritate me because when I can feel it building, like yesterday, that boss fight was just so fucking brutal, and I was like, okay, football manager time. Let's just play some
right.
football manager and just switch off my brain, and I come back and then I beat it first try
Yeah.
because sometimes you can just get into your own head and stop
Eh,
yourself.
I think with you as well, like I mean, you got a fucking 450,000 gamer score. So like there's obviously you have a level of investment that I don't have. And if I because you'd been playing, since the inception of achievements to now and
Mm.
getting achievements throughout the majority of that time. You know what I mean? And so like if I'd been doing that, I would probably be in the same exact vein as you, where I would be diving headfirst into trying to knock off all the achievements and stuff like that. Because dude, when you have a 400,000 gamer score, of course, like I would imagine a part of your brain is like, damn, I wonder if I could get to that mill. I wonder how long
Yeah,
it'd take me to,
that is the long term goal. I think
yeah.
that's probably, yeah, that's the end. I don't see me getting to 2 mil in my lifetime.
The- What's the damn it. He does an Xbox podcast, like the first guy that got to a million, or one of the first guys that got to a
Stallion,
million.
Stallion 83
Okay, that was the
is the
first.
guy's name.
Does he have a podcast? There's a dude with a podcast that got to a million. Um,
I know he's a YouTuber. He's the guy who got a lifetime supply of gold because he did that. And
oh
he was the
damn.
first person to 2 million, and then he finally tapped out. He was like, "Look, man, I can't do this anymore."
Oh really?
Yeah,
What did he say? It was
because
just
it went from it's the thing of what I mentioned of where it went from being games where it actually took dedication and they were actual games that you were playing. It was impressive that he got to a million because they were all actual games for the most part.
mm,
And towards the end of that million, these crappy games started to come in. And then from 1 million to 2 million, the majority of it was just shit. So you just think, what am I doing here? Just clicking A like 50 times.
yeah.
Woo, 1,000. Next. Download, goes to the store. Clicking 50 times. Woo, 1,000. Like it just killed his enjoyment of it. So he backed out, and the moment he backed out, because it was him and this Canadian guy who was like neck and neck for ages, and the moment he stepped off of it, like 10 other people were like, whoosh, and it just floodgates opened.
Man, it's such a bummer because like even, talking about the sports games that have easy achievements, easy platinums, whatever, like they're still games. Like it's still fun to play those games while hunting for the achievements, while hunting for the platinums. Like pressing A bunch or whatever, whatever the core
They they
mechanics are for those games.
they literally the one of the games is like called My Name is Mayo. You're tapping it's a clicker game. You're tapping a jar of mayonnaise. That is it. You
Eh,
just and it
Because like
sold incredibly well.
that's such a bummer because like the Telltale games are easy platinums, super easy platinums. But like they're games, they're fun, they have good stories. Like I don't think there's anything wrong with going out and grabbing some easy
No,
achievements
and easy,
every
like
now
I
and
said,
then.
no, that's why I didn't it completely knock like Robocop. It was a nice side piece. It was interesting. It had a nice relaxed list. I just didn't gel with I don't think I just like the IP, essentially. I just don't really like Robocop as a thing.
Scars Above is a game I played last year that had a super, super easy trophy list. I had like 70%.
Mm,
I had like 70%
yeah.
just by playing the game. And like did not at one time, like not once throughout the game did I look at the trophy list ever. It just naturally got the trophies just by playing the game how I would always play the game. And but it's like a 6 hour fun third person action adventure game. And so yeah, that's an interesting topic for maybe a later video. Just like what kind of trying to, which I would rely on you much more than this. I'm definitely not the
I'd
the
have to
guy to
take the
go to
reins.
for sure. But like I wonder, I would really like to know. Well, we'll do this in a separate video if you want, or a
Yeah,
separate topic.
yeah.
Like what makes a achievement hunt feel purposeful, feel rewarding, and also what separates an easy achievement that is defined as something worthwhile or something that's respectable versus
An easy list that is actually a game and not an easy list that's just tapping a
yeah, that'd
to
be
get
interesting. That'd be a fun topic to
well, there you
dive
go.
into at a later point.
That is the next topic for the next video.
Shit, yeah, man. I apologize for damn taking up so much of your time here with my rambles, brother, but it's
That's
been
what we're
fun.
here for. That's what we're here for. So no problem. Right, that's it then. We're good to wrap up.
Yeah, I'm good to go. I'm just
Okay.
saying I've said pretty much nothing
Said
for like the
everything.
last hour.
Right. Well, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. And make sure, obviously, to check out Brandon's channel.
Give me the money.
Yeah.
Appreciate you guys.